going to call the afternoon meeting. And the first thing we'd like is our city attorney to report out from closed session, please.
All right, Mayor. Council met in closed session with regard to the three items that are on the calendar. The first was labor negotiations. You completed that after a discussion and direction from your labor negotiators. There was no other reportable action. The next item was a discussion with regard to appointment of city manager, interim city manager. You did have a discussion. There was no reportable action on that item. And finally, you did have a discussion with regard to initiation of litigation or administrative procedures with regard to the property referenced. You did give direction to city attorney and special counsel to initiate action in that case. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So good evening. I hope you're all well. I guess you are. You probably wouldn't be here tonight, but we're happy to have you in our chambers. We are calling the June 25th regular city council meeting to order, and we will begin with Councilmember Carnevale leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then please remain standing while Rita Lamb offers the invocation or moment of silence.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In an era where tuning into the television can evoke anxiety and scrolling through social media immerses you in a vortex of comparison, it becomes crucial to discover a wellspring of serenity and peace from within. So, let peace begin on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as our Father, brothers all are we. Let me walk with my brother in perfect harmony. Thank you.
Thank you. You may be seated. City Clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Lamb?
Here.
Councilmember Carnevale?
Here.
Councilmember Gutierrez?
Here?
Mayor Pro Tem Gregory? Here. Mayor Ross?
City Manager, do we have a report for us this evening?
I do, Mayor, members of the council, and this is the worst kept secret in the world, but I wanted to officially and publicly announce that I have decided it's time for me to retire. My intent is to stay here in Cathedral City and be part of the community. Maybe I'll come to council meetings and complain about stuff. I don't know. It's really been an honor and a privilege to serve this community, the people of the city, you all as the council, the previous council. I think we are fortunate to have had the kind of leadership that we've had here from our elected officials, and I'm confident that I'm leaving the city in a good place. We have excellent leadership from the city council. We have a capable assistant city manager and department head team that's in place that run their departments. They probably won't even notice when I'm not here because they know what to do and are committed to service in the same way that I've tried to exemplify in the time here. So I wrote you all a letter, and I think it's been published in the paper and everything else by now already, so I won't belabor the point, but to say thank you for letting me serve all these years, and I wish the best for the people of the community, for the city, and I'll still be here, so thank you.
And we all wish the best for you, too. Public comment, City Clerk, please.
Public comment is the opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that are within the City Council's jurisdiction but not on the agenda. Because of restrictions contained in California law, the City Council may not discuss or act on any item not on the agenda but may briefly respond to statements made or ask a question for clarification. The Mayor may also request a brief response from staff to questions raised during public comment or request that a matter be agendized for a future meeting. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. If you are a member of the public and you wish to address the City Council, please complete a request request to speak form available at the entrance and submit it to the city clerk. You will be called upon at the appropriate time. If you have materials or other items to present to the members of the city council, please do not approach them. All materials shall be presented to the city clerk for distribution. And we do have some members that would like to speak.
Thank you.
Our first speaker is Art Gregory.
Good afternoon, Art.
Good afternoon, City Council members and Mayor.
Sir, please speak into the
Where am I-
microphone.
Yeah, I want to know which mic am I supposed to use?
This one,
And
sir.
I hope the clock hasn't
Nope, I have not
yet.
started yet. You,
This one?
There
This
you
is
go,
the
sir.
one.
Yes.
So where do I put my papers? I'm old school.
You can put it right here. Okay, right here.
Okay. You ready to hit the button?
Let's go.
Okay. I came here with some things I wanted to read, and then I came in here and I looked up and it says, "Moving Cathedral City Forward," and I stopped and I said, I hope so. I hope we don't move our city backwards. So I am going to go back in time because sometimes history does repeat itself. From 1933 to 1945, during World War II and the Holocaust, the Nazis used the pink triangle to identify homosexuals, and they used the Star of David to identify the Jews. This is a way of poking at them, belittling them, isolating them, deporting them, and as a result, 6 million Jews perished. And the symbol, that is why I'm wearing the pink triangle. Fast forward to the mid-'80s, during the AIDS crisis. This is when ACT UP was formed with the slogan, "Silence equals death." This was a group that was formed because demands for treatment and compassionate care were not being granted by the government. The president at the time, Reagan, didn't even mention the word AIDS until after 1985 when Rock Hudson was diagnosed. It's time to get these shirts out again because we're repeating ourselves. We are now living in an environment where minorities are being targeted and taken away in unmarked vehicles, and they're disappearing. And yet again, here we are. Hard-working immigrants are being singled out and randomly disappearing before our very eyes by unknown masked men in uniforms. Recently, an 87-year-old veteran, John Spitzberg, was arrested during a protest of a military parade in Washington, D.C., one of 60 arrested. John admitted that he crossed the line because he saw his fellow veterans being pummeled. Agents lifted him from his rollator, just like my husband's sitting in right now, and they cuffed him. John was vigilant and resisted to help his fellow vets. And I'm here to tell you, I saw the video. He says, "I'm not done yet." And that's an 87-year-old man. I'm going to read you a poem. First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak because I'm not Jewish. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak. What's happening across this country now is just absolutely abhorrent and horrific. I'd like to know, I'm sorry Chief Crum is not here, how many Cathedral City residents are missing? How many have been taken away? How many lawnmowers were left running? How many weed whackers? How many were taken from the fields of Coachella? During the campaign, Trump promised deportation, focusing on immigrants he claimed that were invading our country. He described them as thugs, gang members, drug dealers, rapists, bad hombres. Bad hombres, that's code for brown people, in case you were wondering. So instead of picking up the drug addicts and that, he's picking people up from Home Depot,
Art, I'm
restaurants,
sorry.
car
I'm
washes.
so sorry.
I
I'm sorry, but your time is up.
hope we don't go back to Hitler.
Thank you so much.
And I'd like to pass the torch to people that are on the list. This is here if you want to read it.
The next speaker is Yasmin Espinoza.
Good evening, Ms.
Good
Espinoza.
afternoon. Hi, I'm Yasmin Espinoza, activist in your area. Yeah, Tesla every Sunday, that's mine. I own that one. More important than anything, 8 years ago, this city council voted 3-2 to be a sanctuary city. I rode a bus to Sacramento to make sure we were a sanctuary state with other activists. It just hurts to see what's happening now. I don't know how it impacts each one of you in this room, but I can tell you it hurts. This is unbelievable fear. Fear that we have to go to the market for neighbors. This whole thing was to improve our public safety for everybody, even if you had a member that was undocumented visiting. We were free to call the fire department and the police department or go to public events. We're not free anymore. I know the federal thing on 2-87G where we cannot interfere with them. But I think times have passed since 8 years ago. We need to figure out a path. We need to work with TODAC. The day that we were getting the raids, we needed to see a face, District 1. We needed to see a face. We needed to have the backup. People were fearing, I'm not their leader. I'm not their leader. I was calling you guys out, please come help us. You have an amphitheater. You could have had TODAC there calming the fears, passing out the red cards. Have you seen the red cards? Do you know what the red card is? The red card is printed in English and Spanish, and what it tells you is what your right is. We carry them on us because now even going to Vegas and returning from Nevada, you're stopped at the California inspection station, taken out of your car now. This is going on everywhere in our country. I denounce Trump. He is not my president. This is horrible what's happening in this country. This is not who we are. We are better, committed to pride and excellence. We move forward. So let's find a way out of this sanctuary that keeps us safe. We need to find something. People are in fear. We're having to gather food now because people aren't going to the market. Our restaurants are closing because there's nobody working. I went to 20 shops after they hit the ARCO station and gave out the red cards. You couldn't believe how people were hugging me and my husband. Thank you for doing something. It's not my job. You are the leaders of our community. Be there with us, stand with us. Raul Ruiz came and stood with us on one of the rallies. And that was the day that 2 senators were killed. He wasn't afraid. Is your fear greater than theirs not to be with us? I kind of asked, what's going on? Where are my leaders? We voted for you. We want you there with us. Please. I cannot beg you enough. Stop the fear in this community. Don't let them into our community. Put signs up. Just like we did COVID. Wear a mask. Ice ahead. Let them know that they're going to get gas. They're going to get pulled out of their vehicle. They're going to go to Home Depot or they're going to go to U-Haul and rent something. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public that wish to provide a comment? I see none, Mayor.
Thank you very much. So now we move on to council reports, and may we begin? Councilmember Lamb.
So there weren't many activities. My husband and I did take a vacation to Wyoming, and I thank you for that, reorganizing our summer dates. And the first thing I did, I had a meeting with Shane Masad from Southern California Edison, and he wanted to express again, to remind folks in the community that Southern California Edison offers all sorts of opportunities for rate reductions based on some of your specific needs in your income area. So please go to the Southern California Edison website. I had an opportunity to attend along with Councilman Carnevale and Councilman Gutierrez, the Cathedral City Fire Department pinning ceremony. We had added four new firefighters and paramedics, and there was a big thank you to all the community for your support of Measure W. Our wonderful city manager talked about his retirement. And I had an opportunity to bring with me, this was an article, as Charlie mentioned, it was not a very well-kept secret, but it was a great article in the Desert Sun talking about the Cathedral City manager announces retirement. And it listed on the second page 10 items that he participated in, and it's nothing compared to what he's doing and what he's done. The 10 items highlighted some of the specific and more recent events that he has overseen for our particular city and for our community and for our residents. But I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You were the city manager when I came in 2019, and you've led us through some very challenging and exciting times, and still do, with grace and dignity and respect for all of us. So thank you so much. With that note on retirements, Dr. Signoret retired from Palm Springs Unified School District. We were out of town. I wasn't able to attend his retirement function. And Kevin Kalman from Desert Recreation District is also retiring. So I don't know what's happening. Maybe it's in the water, but it'll be a big change. Joanne Kennan, she was recognized as our Senior Inspiration Award winner a few years ago, and she contacted me and is again spearheading the Veterans Day activities here right in Cathedral City at Patriot Park. I had a chance to do interviews for our volunteers for the Public Arts Commission and the Parks and Community Events, and I just have to say we had such a great group of people, as we always do, but really robust and interested and willing to commit the time and energy it takes to really work on these commissions. And what they've done for our city is just remarkable. As your representative on the Coachella Valley Mountains Conservancy, Elizabeth King is the executive director. She is out on maternity leave. We had a baby shower for her. And Diana Rosas is the interim director. But I did have an opportunity to attend UC Riverside. They had part of the responsibilities for the Mountains Conservancy is to review and give grants. And this was for a grant that was for honing in on specific areas of our mountains that has been conserved by the Conservancy, and to really focus in on the animal life and flora and fauna. And it was a great presentation, way over my head, but it was wonderful to see the work that they're doing and how they contribute to the community. And I just wanted to, this is just a commercial. We have free summer movie series. Antonio Beishu was here earlier. He's on the Parks and Community Events Commission. And it's every Friday at 10 o'clock. It started June 13th and it goes through August 1st. Desert Recreation District is again providing our services for our Cathedral City High School, our summer swim program. And if you've not seen the works of the ham radio operators, there's a group called the Desert Rats. I was introduced to them in 2019. They are having a presentation and a workshop June 28th from 11 to 4 at Cathedral City Library, and they're ham radio operators. In the event of, a traumatic emergency here in the desert, they provide communication systems. So it's a great event. Again, that's June 28th, and that's all I have for my report. Thank you.
Councilmember, you're forgetting one event that you attended.
Oh.
The street sign unveiling event. One little one.
Diane.
You might want to talk about it.
The what?
For the street signs for Diane.
Oh, you know what? I wrote it on the back. But it was an unbelievable day because we were able to recognize Diane Gill and Jane Rasco. And they are residents of Cathedral City that both passed away, Diane about a year ago, and Jane just recently. But they were recognized for their community contributions. And I first met them years ago when they were initiating the public outreach for the assessment district. And they're matter of fact, just the facts, presentations and meeting people in the streets where they were, talking about how it would benefit our community, were so unbelievable and so relaxed and so low-key and so successful. And it really changed the character and culture of the Cathedral City Cove and really brought definition to it and safety and the benefits to our climate and flood control. I mean, it goes on and on. So I want to thank our Public Works Department and our community events and Charlie and all the folks involved in it, Deanna Presgrove and Adam Chastain, and they just did a great job in making sure the streets were safe so that Channel and Valley View could be a venue for celebrating these two wonderful women that we were just talking about the history of Cathedral City, and hopefully they'll always be remembered, and the street sign toppers are there forever. So thank you for reminding me.
Very nice. Yes, a lot has happened. It's been 4 weeks since we're on our summer schedule since we last met, so I can understand. That seemed a long time ago because it'll be 4 weeks ago tomorrow that unveiling event occurred, but I, of course, joined the rest of the council. And I know I was very thankful of our staff, but I was also very impressed by the members of the public, of the community, the families that came out to honor both Diane and Jane. So thank you again, Councilmember Lamb, for making sure that renaming of the street happened. Thank you to some people here in the audience for pushing that initiative, and thank you for everyone for coming out to honor both of them. So following that, although we're on our summer schedule and we're supposed to be taking time off, everyone was really busy, so I know I'm just going to list some of the things. On June 2nd, I did represent the city at the Coachella Valley Association of Governments Transportation Committee. There was an item on there dealing with CV Link maintenance, and that eventually went to the executive committee for approval. It looks like CVAG will be contracting with Desert Recreation District to do much of the maintenance on those. And then, of course, there was discussion of a number of projects. And then on June 3rd, the mayor and I met here at City Hall with communications and events, and we did raise the flag, the pride flag, over City Hall, where it's should be up for Pride Month. So thank you, Mayor, for joining me, and again, thank you for a number of members of the community came and joined us for that also. And then I've had blows. There we go. It went off and back on again. All right. With the Verano blow sand issue, you probably saw in the media that not a surprise, but Verano has had an issue with blow sand. This was actually something that was anticipated many years ago, and agreements were made dealing with maintenance. But of course, between the developer and the HOA and some burrowing owls, there's been some issues there. So again, I want to thank particularly John Corella and his staff for their work on that and for meeting with the residents. We had a number of residents come in and meet with us, and of course with city management also, to try to see where exactly the responsibilities lie and to make sure that we're following through with our obligation to make sure or to try to point out where some of these blow sand traps and other things need to be corrected, and to work with them basically on trying to alleviate that issue. And then on Monday, June 9th, I did represent the city at the Coachella Valley Association of Governments Public Safety Committee, and Deputy Chief Rick Sanchez was one of the presenters there, presented on safety at events, particularly those events that are accessible to the streets. And of course, a lot of the discussion kind of sidetracked into some things that have happened in Palm Springs, in particular the bombing at the hospital, but it was an excellent discussion. It's one of those times that it was such a good discussion, at some point we had to kind of just cut it off so we could have more discussion perhaps at a future meeting. But I want to make sure I thank the Deputy Chief for his participation. Our Fire Chief was also there, and thank them for all they do to work with our other public safety agencies here in the Coachella Valley to keep us all safe and all on the same page. And then the next next night, it was June 10th, it was the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce's annual installation dinner. And I know that the mayor and our economic development manager, Eric Bessaril, introduced the local chamber. Although we're not partnering with the chamber this coming year, the Cathedral City Chamber continues to exist, and so we were happy to welcome them and their board. And I know that Councilmember Carnevale was also there with us. And then the next day, on June 11th, I represent the city at the Riverside County Transportation Commission. Had a big full agenda there too. Of course, the biggest one was the budget. The budget was passed, but also on the agenda was a SB 821 award. That's a grant program that deals with bike and pedestrian safety, and we scored very well on a project that the council has seen to turn Avenida Maravilla into a shared bike street somewhere down the road. So that grant was approved. And so again, thank you to John Krell and his staff for getting that in front. And that'll be coming, of course, back before the council at the appropriate time to accept the funding and move that project forward. And then, as already been mentioned, on June 13th, the summer movie series has already been mentioned, but I was privileged to be able to go to the kickoff and hand out books and make sure everybody got into the movies. So those movies continue every Friday, again at 10 o'clock. Make sure you're there by 9:30. The tickets go fast. I think this week there's one of the Despicable Me's is there, and it's absolutely free for Cathedral City or anyone that goes. And first come, first served. You get you can get books, free books. You can get water and popcorn, all provided by the Parks and Community Events Commission. So thank you so much. And then I did take a little time off, as some of us did. I did go out of town, so I was not here on Saturday, June 14th, but I want to tell everyone I was in Big Bear Lake. In Big Bear Lake, they also had although it's a conservative stronghold, they did have a No Kings rally. I was honored to be able to participate up in Big Bear Lake with a couple hundred people in a No Kings rally there, and plan to participate where appropriate in other rallies. Just want to remind everyone, on July 1st at 9 a.m., we will be having the ambulance roll back for Medic 22. This is your ambulance that was paid for by Measure W, or is being paid for by Measure W. So if you would like to push on the ambulance that you're helping pay for, that'll be at 9 a.m. And that'll be at Station 2 on, I think it's Desert Vista is the road there. And then we do have the July 4th holiday coming up. I do want to make sure everyone remembers no fireworks of any kind are legal in Cathedral City. I know there are professional displays in Palm Springs and Rancho Mirage, so feel free to avail yourselves of those, but there are to be no fireworks in Cathedral City. They are very disturbing to especially the veterans and people and pets and other people with sensitivities, so please be courteous and kind. And last thing we need is people to get upset or have fires, those type of things. So we will next be meeting, I just want to remind everybody, we'll next be meeting on our summer schedule on July 9th. So that is just 2 weeks away. So if you plan to come see us, set your calendar for July 9th. Our next meeting after that, our normal 2-week meeting won't be happening. So July 9th will be your last chance to address us until August. And just real quickly, we'll have plenty of opportunity to speak about the city manager in the weeks that come, since his retirement is not until September, so I'm not going to try to go on about that. But I do want to say that we knew this was coming. As you said, city managers, was not a very well-kept secret, although we here on council, I know, really hoped you would keep pushing that out as far as possible, but it seems like that time has come. So I do want to recognize that the council will be taking a very deliberative process dealing with the retirement and replacement, those types of things, and anticipate that there'll be some community involvement in some way with that. So stay tuned on that in the next weeks to come. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make mine quick. Good evening. It's nice to be back again after 4 weeks off. We recently celebrated Father's Day, so all the fathers out there, I want to wish you, I hope you had a wonderful Father's Day. And I'm not going to go or emphasize some of the things I did. Since council does a lot of things together, I'll just mention briefly that I did attend the sign unveiling for Diane Gill and Jane Rasco. And I also attended as your representative the Coachella Valley Association of Governments Conservation Commission meeting, in which the commission approved the purchase of 3.5 acres in Desert Hot Springs, which were adjacent to a larger parcel that was purchased earlier this year. And also the commission approved the yearly budget along with the cleanup of an illegal encampment within the property that is owned by the Conservation Commission. I did get the opportunity to attend the retirement party for Tony Signore. It was well attended by many local leaders, and after such a long career for Tony Signore, I wish him a happy retirement, along with our city manager here, Charlie. And as it was mentioned by Councilmember Lamb, I also attended the swearing-in ceremony for medics about 2 weeks ago. And as I've done in the past, I have driven and continue to drive around my district, and whenever I see a code violation, I immediately report it to staff, and our city manager and staff have done a wonderful job. Whenever I report something, immediately gets corrected or within a short time. Now, if you don't know, if you're not aware of, there is an app that you can download on your phone and your smartphone, and you can report many issues on your smartphone, whether it's graffiti, whether it's shopping carts, potholes. There's many issues that you can report, and it's easy, and staff does take care of them. So make sure you download that app and report any issues that you may have. I also met with the city manager to go over tonight's agenda, as we always do. And finally, like it was mentioned by Councilmember Raymond here, July 4th is coming up, and make sure that you remember that fireworks, no matter what, they are illegal and they are also harmful for our pets. Our pets just go crazy, so make sure you take care of them, because a lot of people, no matter how many times you make them aware that fireworks are illegal, they're going to continue to just break the law and fire fireworks. So please make sure that you're safe and enjoy your happy 4th of July. And that concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Carnevale.
Thank you very much. I met with Ann for my weekly meeting, and we discussed a situation that John Corella helped me fix out for a contractor to expedite a project at the Palm Springs Cemetery. It's really great to get staff involved and move these contractors along and get their programs going quickly. Also talked with Ann. She gave me an update on Fountainhead, on the property, the 13.5 acres. It's very sensitive. It's taking a little bit longer, and I like to keep update on what's going on there. And she gave me an update on that. It's moving slow, but forward. And then I stopped by Andy's office, and he gave me an update on the progress that's very important in Cathedral City with their air filtration for the odor of marijuana and their monitoring system. And I'm looking forward to having his report coming up, I think next month, if I'm not mistaken, to see what's going on with that. And then again, with Councilmember Gutierrez and Councilmember Lamb, attended the oath of office at the fire department. It always gives me an honor to see those young individuals starting their careers here, and it just makes me proud, because it's that fire department has come so long in the past years, and it's really makes us proud. So it's nice to be there to see that department grow with excellent service and pride. And then I did go with the sign topping, and that was really great what you did there, Councilmember Lamb, and I want to thank Art Gregory as well, because he participated in moving that thing along, and it was a great day. And it's great to get the community in here and do projects like that. And then I also spoke with a constituent here. He's sitting in the front row about the ICE situation going on here in Cathedral City. He's very passionate about it. I think we had about a 20, 30-minute conversation what direction we can do, what city can do to help on this here. I don't know if there's much we can, but I think we're going to be looking into that and to see what we can do for that there. But I thank you for your passion on that, Art. And then I met with the Rotary, Cathedral City Evening Rotary, and again, we're going to be taking on the, I believe it's the 18th Field of Valor there, and we're looking forward to doing a little bit smaller project, but we're going to be looking for the police department for some help and the fire department, and any volunteers out there that really want to get involved, we'll be looking for volunteers on that. And that's all I have. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. I am also busy like my fellow council members, but I don't want to spend any time much to tell you about that this week because I, like so many people in the community, have lost somebody to ICE who've been picked up, who've been scurried away, and I am lucky to know where he is. Most people don't. We don't know where our people are. We don't know who they are for the most part. I did events this month. I met people, but that's not important. What's important is that I did meet with the senator and talk to her. I talked to Raul Ruiz's office. He was actually out. I spoke with our consulate, our governor's office. I even reached out to my brother-in-law, who's an ambassador, and just said, somebody's got to know. Somebody's got to have a list. Somebody must have taken some identification, and I know for a fact they have because of my friend. So I would just like to share with you tonight and hope that you will share it with others and understand that ICE agents are not Cathedral City police. Our police officers don't participate in that at all. They're not county and they're not state. They're federal agents. And so what do you do when ICE comes to your door? You do not open the door. You are not legally required to let them in unless they have a warrant. Ask why they're there. If you don't speak English, you have the right to ask for an interpreter. If they want to enter, ask to see the warrant. There are two kinds of warrants. There's search and there's arrest. A search warrant allows police to enter the address listed on the warrant, but officers can only search the areas for the items listed. The arrest warrant allows police to enter the home of a person listed on the warrant if they believe the person listed is inside. A warrant of removal, deportation, an ICE warrant does not allow the officers to enter a home without consent. Ask the officer to slip the warrant under the door or hold it up to your window so you can inspect it. They might show administrative forms I-200 or I-205, but if they don't have a warrant signed by a judge, you may refuse entry. Check for a signature by the judge. If it's a search warrant, make sure it is for your address. If not, you do not have to open your door. If it is an arrest warrant, make sure it is for someone who lives at your address. If not, you do not have to open the door. Even if officers have a warrant and you have to let them in, you still have the right to remain silent. Say, I plead the Fifth Amendment, and I choose to remain silent. If they force their way inside, don't resist. Remain calm, but don't share any information. If you are arrested, remain silent. You're entitled to speak to a lawyer before cooperating, and most importantly, keep calm because you have rights and you can exercise them. If ICE is at your workplace, do not consent. State that you do not consent to a search. ICE can enter areas open to the general public, and this doesn't say this on the sheet, but my friend who was taken from his automobile, and an automobile is considered public land, so that isn't your private residence. It isn't someplace you're protected. If ICE is at your workspace, we talked about that. ICE can enter areas open to the general public, dining areas, parking lots, waiting rooms of a business without permission, but that does not give ICE the authority to detain, question, or arrest anyone. Ask if they have a warrant. If agents don't have a warrant, calmly ask them to leave. Advise workers that they have rights to remain silent and do not answer questions, but do not direct anyone not to answer questions. They don't have to, but don't tell them not to. If ICE has a search warrant signed by a judge, Make sure the warrant has the correct address for your workplace. Review the warrant to see what areas of items ICE is authorized to search. ICE is not authorized to search areas or inspect items that are not described on the warrant. Stay calm. Do not run. ICE can use that as a reason to arrest you. Do not encourage anyone to escape or hide. Know the law. That's the important part. Under California law, employers cannot turn over employee records or voluntarily allow immigration agents to enter non-public areas of the workplace without the judicial warrant. Ask to see identification. Write down the name, contact information, and badge number of officers or agents. If the agent refuses to provide documentation, you should note that as well. Document any violence or abuse, document the details of the search, and person or property taken. Call the rapid response team as quickly as you can. And I just want to share with you my experience so that it's just one in hundreds, but it might give you some hope. My friend was pulled over on Ramon. He and his wife moved into one of our apartments when they were just so young, and they had 2 kids while they were with us, and then 4 of them were in a studio, and they had to go. They needed a bigger room, but they remained our friends all of these years. He was pulled over on Ramon. He was asked to roll down his window. He said he would not. They said, "We will break your window," which they had the right to do. And he did step out of the car. He was arrested, he was handcuffed, and he was taken to the airport, where there were many other men of color waiting for them there, other people like my friend. They were all put onto an airplane. They were sent to Tabasco, Mexico, which is the farthest south you can go, right up against Guatemala. They were escorted off of the plane. While they were on the plane, they'd had their wallets and their phones confiscated from them. So basically, they got off with the clothes that were on their backs. There was some discussion between the ICE agents, and each of the wallets were opened, and the men got the money that was whatever was in their wallet at the time that they were taken. They also, after some other discussion, got their telephones returned, but of course, nobody had cell service because it was in a very remote area where you wouldn't get that. I'm lucky that my friend could call and tell us where he was and that he was safe. I can only imagine what it's like to not know where your dad or your husband or your son is. And I hope you can pass along some words of wisdom and maybe help people that come up against this, because this is not the America I stand for. I don't believe in breaking the laws. I don't believe in coming to our country against the law necessarily. I mean, I haven't put a ton of thought into my argument there, but I also support following laws, but I don't support grab and steal and not knowing where people are. Those are our people, you guys. Those are our people, your people, my people. Where are our people? Thank you very much. Okay, so we're moving on to consent agenda with a little quiver here. City Clerk, can you please read the consent agenda items?
Yes, Mayor. Item 4A is to waive full reading of ordinances on agenda. Item 4B is the approval of the May 28, 2025 study session and regular council meeting minutes. Item 4C is to receive and file the check demand for May 2025. Item 4D is to adopt the amended personnel rules. Item 4E is to authorize the city manager to execute a side letter with the Cathedral City Police Officers Association to update MOU language to ensure compliance with CalPERS reporting requirements for special compensation. Item 4F is to adopt a resolution approving a citywide publicly available pay schedule. Item 4G is to approve an amendment to the executive, administrative, and professional employee regulations. Item 4H is to accept and approve the Highway Safety Improvements Program, Cycle 10 Pedestrian Crossing on Ramon Road and Candlewood Drive Project, C08753, as complete. Authorize city manager to execute a notice of completion with Riverside County Recorder's Office, and authorize release of retention funds to Elector Belco Electric, Inc. upon expiration of the notice of completion. Item 4I is to accept and approve the fiscal year 2024-2025 citywide pavement striping markings and markers project C08687 as complete. Authorize the city manager to execute the file a notice of completion with the Riverside County Recorder's Office, and authorize the release of retention funds to CalStripe, Inc. upon expiration of the notice of completion. Item 4J is to waive reading beyond the title, provide second reading, and approve an ordinance adopting the March 24, 2025 final updated fire hazard severity zones map. Item 4K is to provide second reading by title only and adopt an ordinance approving the engineering and traffic survey prepared by Albert A. Webb Associates and establishing the 2025 citywide speed limits in Cathedral City. Item 4L is to authorize the purchase and installation of 2 new Arctic SCBA compressor systems for a total of $175,548.90. Item 4M is to approve the maintenance services agreement for landscape maintenance and support services and utilize the city manager to execute the maintenance agreement with PS Tree Service. Item 4N is to approve the maintenance services agreement for janitorial services and authorize the city manager to execute the maintenance agreement with Apex Team Solutions. Item 4O is to approve an agreement with the Palm Springs Unified School District for the police department to provide a school resource officer for fiscal year 2025-2026 and fiscal year 2026-2027 in the amount of $369,158 and authorize the city manager to execute all necessary documents. Item 4P is to approve an amendment to the professional services agreement with Terra Nova Planning and Research, Inc. for planning and environmental services related to the CV Commerce Center project and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement. And that concludes the consent agenda.
That was a mouthful. Thank you very much. That was the longest consent agenda we have ever had. And she never took a breath through the whole thing. Yeah, he can. John can vouch for that. There's never been a longer. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on any item on the consent agenda?
I did not receive any requests to speak forms. If you're a member of the public and you wish to comment on the consent agenda, please raise your hand. I do see one, sir. Please join us at the lectern. Please.
We can't hear you. That's why we have the microphone.
And I believe, sir, did you say 4M?
Yeah, 4. And do I speak right now? Or?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Hello, my name is Joel Diaz on behalf of Jack Diaz.
This in front of your mouth.
Okay. Hello, my name is Joel Diaz on behalf of Jack Diaz of Palm Springs Tree Service. I would like to thank you all for allowing us the opportunity to continue working with you all for our beautiful city of Cathedral City. Thank you.
It is a beautiful city. Thank you for helping with that.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public that wish to comment on items on this consent agenda? I see none, Mayor.
So, Mayor, I will need to recuse myself from the vote on item 4H because I own real property in the area. So when I cast my vote, it will only be for the remaining items.
Okay, that's great. And you have that noted, City Clerk?
Yes.
Just 4 H's. Okay. So following the public, what are we doing here? Yeah, that's right. Following our public comment, is there anybody from council who would like to say something on this ridiculously long consent agenda?
Move approval.
All in favor?
1 second, Mayor. Let me get this. Let's do a roll call vote. Looks like I'm stuck here.
I'm stuck.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Gutierrez and a second by Councilmember Lamb, correct? Roll call. Councilmember Carnevale?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb? Councilmember Gutierrez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gregory?
Yes.
Mayor Ross?
Yes.
And motion carries all ayes.
Thank you so much. So next is a public hearing. It's the annual renewal of the Lighting and Landscape District LLD budget. The recommendation is to hold a public hearing, adopt resolutions providing the final engineer's report, and order the levy and collection of annual assessments for the 16 existing benefit zones for the annual renewal of the Lighting and Landscape District budget for fiscal year 25-26. So far, so good?
And Mayor and Council, Kevin Biersack, your Financial Services Director, will present this item. You saw it in study session a meeting or two ago, and this is the final step in the adoption process. Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Yes, 2 meetings ago, May 14th, so this should be a quick public hearing. As Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, if you do have any questions, please feel free to interrupt as we go along or save them to the end. This slide you saw before, but for the listening public and anyone that did not see it previously, at May 14th, you adopted 3 resolutions to initiate the proceedings, to the resolution for the intent to levy, and the resolution for the preliminary engineer's report. Keep in mind, this is an annual budgeting process that we do every year. This is part of our budget document that you've already approved, but just based on the timing and everything, we bring to you every year the landscape and lighting district budget. What you have before you tonight is part 2, or step 2, and that is to hold the public hearing. And tied to that, you will be voting twice on 2 different resolutions. Number 1, that resolution to order the levy and collection of the assessments, and number 2, to approve the final engineer's report, which basically looks like what you saw back on May 14th because there have been no changes. This slide has not changed from what you saw back in May, and that is the overall maintenance costs are under $400,000. There's the assessment, engineering, and administrative collection of that, so it brings it up to about $450K. Keep in mind there is a minor portion with respect to the general fund that is charged for 50% of the arterial streetlights, and that comes in at almost $16,000. Then keep in mind also, when you get down to the bottom line, we are able to utilize some of those reserve funds that are sitting out there in some of the different zones, because we have a 25% reserve that we have to have in each zone, and for when we have any that are above that in the form of reserves, we're able to use those dollars. So that's what helped us in bringing some of those levies down this cycle for some of those zones, because we had extra reserves. We haven't spent like we thought we would spend. In the end, the levy will be just under $350,000 for the 3,800 parcels, which equates to over 4,100 equivalent dwelling units in these 16 zones. This is in support of our 5-year strategic plan, Goal C, our fiscal stability and sustainability, and our overall objective, primarily being fiscally responsible. The recommendation, as we said earlier, is to hold the public hearing and to adopt these 2 resolutions, as stated. Any questions?
Council, any questions?
No, great job saving money.
Thank you.
We're all good with that. So thank you, Mr. Bursack. At this time, I will open the public hearing. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on this item?
I did not receive any request to speak forms. If you're a member of the public and you wish to comment on this item, please raise your hand. And I see none, Mayor.
At this time, I will close the public hearing. Now, are there any additional questions that would have come up for council? Anything more? Do we have a motion to approve staff's recommendation?
So moved.
Second? So that's moved by Mayor Pro Tem Gregory and second by Councilmember Lamb.
Please vote. And motion carries, all ayes. I apologize, I didn't put it on the screen.
That was a very fast hearing.
That works. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have the zoning ordinance amendment 25-002 and specific plan amendment 25-002. And may we have a staff report, please?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This is an amendment to the zoning code that has been to the Planning Commission already, and it's to address an unusual situation that occurred that was going to make development of a parcel impossible. So our Associate Planner, Dom Camps, is going to present this item for you.
Thank you, City Manager, and good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. My name is Dom Camps, Associate Planner. Today I'll be presenting Zoning Ordinance Amendment 25-0002 and Specific Plan Amendment 25-0002 for your consideration. These amendments propose to add single-family dwellings as a permitted use in the RM district, subject to certain conditions, and to amend Specific Plan 8726C to allow single-family dwellings in the specific plan when permitted in the underlying zoning district. So some background on this project. The RM district, on February 5th, 2025, a property owner submitted a building permit application for the construction of a new single-family home on an approximately 9,500 square foot property on Olancha Road, outlined on this map in blue. According to the general plan, the property is designated as medium-density residential at a density of 4.5 to 10 dwelling units per acre, and according to the zoning map, the property is in the RM, or multifamily residential district. While there are existing single-family dwellings adjacent to the property and on nearby properties, new single-family dwellings are not a permitted use in the RM district. Additionally, the property is located in specific plan 8726C, which also prohibits new single-family dwellings. After investigating this property on Olancha, staff found that the property is one of multiple vacant lots that are in the RM district that are too small to fully support development of multifamily projects while meeting the current development standards. So that finding is what's led to the amendments being proposed today. The RM district is one of 4 multifamily districts in the city. As shown in this map outlined in yellow, there are 139 properties in the RM district. 28 of them are currently undeveloped, so 4 of those properties are just south of the I-10, and the other 24 vacant properties in the RM district are along the Date Palm corridor south of Ramon Road and north of Dinah Shore. Permitted uses in the RM district include multifamily dwellings as well as compatible uses such as small family daycares, supportive and transitional housing, and group homes. But again, single-family dwellings are not currently permitted in the district. In terms of development standards, the RM zoning district allows residential density at a range of 4.5 to 10 dwelling units per acre, and it establishes a medium lot size of 20,000 square feet for all newly created lots. However, there are currently 60 existing non-conforming properties in the RM district that are less than that 20,000 square feet, including 28 properties that are 10,000 square feet or smaller. In researching the Olancha property, staff found that it is difficult to develop multifamily projects on these sites that are less than 10,000 square feet while meeting the RM development standards. So based on a permitted density of, again, 4.5 to 10 dwelling units per acre, a 10,000 square foot property could be developed with a minimum of 1 dwelling unit, so that would be at 4.5 dwelling units per acre, or a maximum of 2 dwelling units, so that would be 10 dwelling units per acre. However, because the RM district does not allow single-family dwellings, and in order to meet the city's definition of multifamily, there must be 3 dwellings or more, the residential development of properties 10,000 square feet or less can't meet the current development standards. So the proposed zoning ordinance amendment is intended to facilitate infill development on these small vacant lots. As presented to the Planning Commission on June 4th, the amendment would add single-family dwellings as a permitted use in the RM district for lots that are no greater than 10,000 square feet and that do not have frontage on an arterial highway. The proposed amendment otherwise would not modify any of the development standards for the RM district. The intention is to facilitate the development of small infill lots in the RM district that might otherwise be constrained by the current development standards, while limiting the scope of the proposed amendments to maintain consistency with the medium density development pattern that was planned for this area. So the amendment would not apply to properties that have frontage on an arterial highway, which in this case is Date Palm Drive, in order to maintain consistency with the general plan land use map, which generally concentrates higher intensity land uses along major transportation corridors. Likewise, the proposed amendment would not apply to properties that are 10,000 square feet or less in order to continue to promote multifamily development on properties that are large enough to accommodate it. As shown on this table, properties that are at least 13,000 square feet can be developed with 3 units while complying with the permitted density range, thereby meeting the definition of multifamily. It is only properties that are less than 13,000 square feet where multifamily development is constrained by the current development standards for the RM district. All of the vacant lots currently in this category are 9,500 square feet, or less, so 10,000 square feet was chosen as a cutoff to address these particular sites as narrowly as possible. I'll just go back. It's also worth noting that the proposed amendments are essentially an interim fix, addressing constraints impacting a small number of properties while the development code update is underway, which can more comprehensively address this type of constraint. So during the Planning Commission hearing for this zoning ordinance amendment, the Commission requested to further limit the provisions of the proposed amendment to prevent single-family developments on lots that do have the potential for lot consolidation. The Planning Commission therefore recommended that the amendment to the RM district be adopted with a third qualifier, which would state that new single-family dwellings only be permitted on lots that are surrounded by existing development on 2 adjacent properties. There are a total of 23 properties in the RM district that are 10,000 square feet or less and that do not have frontage on an arterial highway. Of these properties, only 7 are currently vacant, and of those 7, 4 properties are adjacent to other vacant properties and therefore have the potential to be merged into a larger lot that could be suitable for multifamily development. That leaves only 3 properties that would qualify for single-family development pursuant to the proposed zoning ordinance amendment. The properties impacted by the proposed zoning ordinance amendment are also all located within the planning area for specific plan 8726C. The specific plan contains a list of prohibited land uses, and that includes single-family dwellings. So staff is proposing to amend the specific plan to allow single-family dwellings when permitted in the underlying zoning district. The zoning underlying the specific plan currently is a mix of planned community commercial and RM, so the specific plan amendment that's being proposed would only apply to those properties that are zoned RM. Furthermore, because the residential development standards in the specific plan are intended for multifamily projects, the proposed amendment would also clarify that single-family dwellings shall be subject to the development standards of the underlying zoning district, in this case, the RM district. The proposed amendments are exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to the common sense exemption. The proposed amendments are text amendments only and do not propose any new development, and the future development of any new single-family dwellings that's facilitated as a result of these amendments would be ministerial projects that are statutorily exempt from CEQA. The specific plan amendment requires consultation with Native American tribes pursuant to Senate Bill 18. The project was transmitted to local and regional tribes on April 2nd of 2025 to open the 90-day period during which consultation can be requested. 4 comments have been received. The Agua Caliente requested formal consultation. That consultation was held and the tribe formally closed it and were satisfied with the conversations that were had. The other 3 tribes that responded had no comments and did not request consultation. The proposed amendments support the implementation of Goal F of the 5-year strategic plan by facilitating infill housing development in established neighborhoods in the city. And with that, staff recommends that the City Council find the proposed zoning ordinance amendment and specific plan amendment to be exempt from CEQA, to introduce an ordinance approving zoning ordinance amendment 250002 to amend Chapter 9.18 of the Cathedral City Municipal Code, to add single-family dwellings as a permitted use in the RM district for lots no greater than 10,000 square feet that are surrounded by existing development on 2 adjacent properties and that do not have frontage on an arterial highway. Staff also recommends that the City Council introduce an ordinance approving specific plan amendment 250002, amending specific plan 8726C to allow single-family dwellings in the specific plan when permitted in the underlying zoning district subject to the development standards of the underlying zoning district. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Council. Do we have questions?
Great presentation.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Very nice. So let me ask you, since we're all very sensitive to multifamily in relation to our RENA numbers, so was there a review done to see how this change would affect RENA, or if we would have to adjust our housing element?
None of the properties that would be impacted by these amendments are used in the housing element land inventory, so it would have no bearing on the RENA numbers.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And my thanks to staff for bringing this forward to try to solve this problem, even if on a interim basis. And my thanks to the Planning Commission for making it even better by further restricting which properties would be affected.
A great presentation. I think it's wonderful that you're looking at it so strategically and capitalizing on the resources that we have that, were not viable for years and years and years. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So at this time, I'll open the public hearing. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on this item?
Mayor, I did not receive any request to speak forms. If you're a member of the public and you wish to comment on this item, please raise your hand. And I see none, Mayor.
Thank you very much. So at this time, I will close the public hearing.
Move approval.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Gregory and a second by Councilmember Lamb. Please vote.
Thank you. And will the clerk please?
And
read it?
motion carries all ayes.
I was just trying to be expeditious here. And will the clerk please read the title of this next ordinance?
Yes, Mayor. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Cathedral City, California, amending Section 9.18.020 of Chapter 9.18 of Title 9 of the Cathedral City Municipal Code to add single-family dwellings as a permitted use in the RM Multiple Family Residential District subject to certain conditions. And an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Cathedral City, California, amending specific Plan 87-26C to allow single-family dwellings when permitted in the underlying zoning district, subject to the development standards of the underlying zoning district. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May we have a staff report, please?
Okay, Mayor, the next item is also a zoning code amendment that has been to the Planning Commission. In fact, the idea originated, I think, in the Planning Commission. And Sandra Molina, your Deputy Director of Community and Economic Development, will present this item.
Yes, thank you, Mr. City Manager. As indicated by the City Manager, this is a public hearing, and this is an ordinance that did get its, came about from Planning Commission. And it's one of those ordinances, a lot of times we're complying with state law, so we have to change our code, or we have a request from a property owner or developer, but this is really one of those ones that germinated from the Planning Commission on how we can make a process better. And so that's a very good point that the City Manager brought up. So this is an ordinance amendment that would relate to public notification for development projects, such as conditional use permits, tentative tract maps, PUDs, or general plan amendments, to name just a few. And the REN was a design review, general plan amendment, zone change. Rosemont Storage was a conditional use permit and a specific plan amendment. So it's those type of projects we're talking about. The Planning Commission did hold 2 public workshops on this topic and conducted their public hearing on May 21st, recommending that the City Council adopt this ordinance. And the ordinance, of course, it's in the agenda report. There's an Exhibit A, which is the new section we're talking about, Chapter 9.09. And then Attachment B of the ordinance is all those existing code sections that have to get amended to comply with our new proposed chapter. And so for the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to focus on the new chapter 9.09, not so much the edits, but of course, if there's any question relating to those edits, I'm happy to respond to those. To give a little bit more of a background, California state law does have provisions relating to notification requirements for public hearings. It does also include the manner of the notice and the contents of the notice, but specifically to mailed notice, which is what this chapter is talking about. We are mandated to provide that notice at least 10 days prior to public hearings, except unless it's a zoning ordinance amendment, such as the one you just heard. When it affects permitted uses of real property, then it's a 20-day minimum notice. We met that requirement on Dom's project. But the law also says that the minimum notification radius is 300 feet, radius of the subject site, and you notify property owners within that. But the state law also allows a local jurisdiction, such as ourselves, to modify those to modify those requirements in any manner deemed necessary or desirable to the community or to the city. So this was in the agenda report, and this is how we started our conversation with the Planning Commission. We looked at cities within Coachella Valley and outside, and we found that many of our cities, our sister cities, so to speak, and those outside this the valley, already notify over 300 feet. We found that a couple of cities in our valley also notify beyond just the real property owners. And there's a couple in our city, like Indio and Palm Desert, that have a community engagement or neighborhood engagement process. And then there's many cities that also do a sign posted on site. The commission discussed that, tabled that, said not at this time. While we're updating our zoning code, if we want to revisit it, we'll revisit it then, but for now, we tabled that. And so with regard to the proposed expanded notification radius, this graphic shows the 300-foot radius, 500-foot radius, and 750 feet. Just kind of gives you an idea of what that looks like and how that relates to parcel counts. And so the amendment to the code proposes that all public hearing projects, the kind of applications we talked about, would have a 500-foot notification radius. And if it's greater than 5 acres, or 5 acres or greater, such as Nirvana Estates, Rosemont Village, the Wren, Rio Vista Specific Plan, these are all 5 acres or greater, they would have a 750-foot mailed notification radius. And then who gets notice? So who gets mailed notice? That's also in this proposed ordinance. And so how this would work is that by law, the property owners within the project site itself will get notice. Real property owners within the radius would also get notice. And when it comes to real property owners, that would be within and outside our city limits. Now, what we're proposing as part of this expansion is also that when we have commercial properties within that radius, that we notify the business tenants, so the business owners. If there's a apartment complex where it's one single ownership entity but multiple people living there, we'll notify the residents in that complex. And if within that radius, you have a mobile home park or an RV park, we'll notify those residents as well as the underlying property owner. So that's the proposed expanded notification for mailed notice within those areas. I should say, with respect to business owners within commercial properties, we would only notify those business owners in our city limits, and that's only because we cannot obtain the data from our sister cities. Now, this is probably the most meaningful portion of the amendment we're proposing, and that's outreach to our community. And so what we're proposing here is this particular section would apply to properties greater than 5 acres in size and that require that discretionary approval from the city. So this particular provision, the purpose of it is to have the applicant hold developer-led meeting with the surrounding community, and the surrounding community being those persons or entities that would receive notice of a public hearing. To familiarize them, the community, with the project, identify any neighborhood concerns, and to produce, so when the applicant comes in with those applications, that material, those exhibits also considered that discussion that may have occurred during that community meeting. Again, it's a developer-led meeting. City staff may or may not attend, but if city staff did attend, it would be for informational purposes. We'd be neutral on the project itself. So these procedures would identify the when, where, how, and what, and who of the meeting. The applicant is required at that meeting to provide project plans so that the community can see what's being proposed as far as the site, architectural elevations, all that information they would need to understand the scope and breadth of the project. The applicant is also required to have a sign-in sheet, keep that sign-in sheet, take notes, provide all that to the city, and that would be provided to the city as a summary report. And so when that comes in, staff would use that to evaluate the project and see what type of issues came up. It is provided to the commission and/or city council as part of their packet to see what was what concerns came up, what resolutions they may have been. But what's really important, and it's in the ordinance, is that that process does not in any way, shape, or form negate the planning commission's or council's review authority. It's an informational packet. The city, the review authority is not bound by any of those concessions or agreements that are made, but they have bearing. And so, with that, staff is recommending, and Planning Commission has recommended, that the City Council find this ordinance amendment exempt from CEQA, and that the council introduce an ordinance amending Title IX as indicated in the recommendation of the staff report. I will also add that, as indicated with the previous project, our consultant doing our code update will get this new ordinance if it moves forward, so they can incorporate it into that update. With that, I'm happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Melita. Anything from council? Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you so much for your presentation and for bringing this forward. So when you were giving your examples, you kind of showed a property and you said that if there was an apartment complex, then the residents would get notified, or a mobile home park. But what about other, like, single-family homes that were where it's not the owner that lives there? And then how would you actually know that?
Yes, that's an omission. The property owners, if it's a renter or not a non-owner occupied, that's probably the most simplest, because when you run that report of property owner mailing address, that property owner, that property is in the city, but their mailing address is outside the city, it's not owner occupied. And so we would just address a second envelope to occupant.
Okay, or if it's at a different address in the city, same type of a thing?
So what we would do is, for that particular property, send two notices, one to the property owner who lives somewhere else, and one to the...
And one to occupant
one
or
to the
something
occupant
like that?
at that site.
All right, excellent. That answers that question. So, all right, I just wanted to say, we strive for transparency in our government here, and sometimes that doesn't always happen to the degree that we would like, and it's nothing worse than having something come forward and then having somebody that lives or has a business reasonably close saying, I never received notice about it. So I think this was a very good thing that was brought forward. So again, thanks to the Planning Commission. I saw Danielle Mead's name in the report there, so it sounds like something she would do. Thank you, Danielle, and the commission, because I think this is, you can go crazy and say everybody has to be, but it has to be some reasonable limit. But I think this, to me, seems like a much more reasonable limit and response, including the community engagement part. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Got so excited I closed my book. Are there any other questions from council? Y'all good? Everybody's good? Okay, at this time, I will open the public hearing. Are there any members of the public who would wish to comment on this item?
Mayor, we do have one request to speak. Danielle Mead.
Good evening, Ms. Mead.
Thank you so much, Council and Mayor Pro Tem Gregory and Mayor Ross, for considering this. I obviously encourage you to support this, and it sounds like you will. But I just wanted to reiterate why we brought this forward from the Planning Commission. We really felt that it was important to get more community engagement and make sure, as Councilmember Gregory just pointed out, that people who live in the area who may not be property owners are still notified of what's happening. And we also want to just make sure that when a development gets all the way to Planning Commission or to the City Council, we don't want there to be last-minute opposition or things that come up all of a sudden that, it's really held to the last minute, and now we're trying to figure out how to solve issues that never came up before. So we liked the idea of the community engagement meeting so that things could be addressed early on. It's better for the developer. They don't waste a lot of time and money moving forward with something that maybe could be solved by a community meeting, and it allows the community to have input up front. So I'm really hope you guys support this, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, I do have a question for Sandra.
Oh, Sandra?
Sandra, I do have a question. This is kind of related to when we had the cannabis come into light. And we had a lot of discrepancy on where, I think it was 300 feet back then too, I'm not sure. but is it from property line to property line, or is it from building to building? I know, or is it from the center of the street in? I know there was a lot of confusion on that. So how does that work as far as the 500 feet? How does that measure?
Yes, so for notification on development projects, it's from the property line.
Property line to property line.
It's property line to, it's you have the property boundaries and you take that radius, and so whatever property falls within that radius, that's who gets a notice. So even if just a portion of their
Okay.
property's in there, they'll get it.
Okay, I know back when this cannabis came, they were going right to the, I believe, the garage or the farthest point of the corner of the building. It was really confusing for a while, so.
For the cannabis ordinance, the distance measurement's different. It's completely different. You're right, there's building a property line. That's completely different from this. If you look at, oh, you can't see that anymore, but that radius graphic that we showed, sometimes properties are just going to, corner's going to hit that radius, they're still going to be notified.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Anything else from council? And City Clerk, do we have anybody in the audience who?
Are there any other members that would like to comment on this item? I see none, Mayor.
Okay, so at this time, I will close the public hearing. Again, I will give you one last chance. You will give me one last chance.
Move
however-
approval.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Gregory and a second by Councilmember Lamb. Please vote. And motion carries. All ayes.
And will the City Clerk please read the title of the ordinance?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Cathedral City, California, amending Title IX, Planning and Zoning of the Cathedral City Municipal Code to add Chapter 9.09, Public Notification and Community Meetings, and to amend Chapters 9.05, 9.52, 9.72, 9.74, 9.76, and 9.78 to delete existing provisions that conflict with the new Chapter 9.09 relating to public notification requirements.
Thank you very much. So we're now moving on to number 6, which are legislative actions. And our first objective is to appoint to the Finance Advisory Committee a new member.
That's
Do we have
right,
a staff
Mayor, and I don't
report,
think I need to say much about this. You interviewed 3 applicants during your study session. You have 1 vacancy at this time, and so we just need you to discuss the candidates and make an appointment.
Okay, so first we're going to ask if there are members of the public, and then we'll have a private, or not private, but we'll have a council comment.
I did not receive any request to speak forms. If you're a member of the public that wish to comment on this item, please raise your hand. And I see none, Mayor.
Is there a discussion anybody would like to join
Well,
in? Or do you want to go to a vote?
So difficult because I think they all, usually there aren't people fighting over getting on this committee, first of all, but we're glad to have good people. And I think they all had strengths, even the Mr. Leach that's a newer resident, you seem to have financial strengths. I felt, especially in the interviews, that maybe a little more time learning about the city and the functionings of the city would benefit, him. But so then we have the other 2, and I think, again, they both were very, very good. And I appreciate that Rocio Conde has experience in some similar things with education. I think it was telling when she believed that the city gets much of its money from the property tax and from state and federal grants, because that's what education does, in my understanding. That's not exactly where the city gets their money, but again, I think that she has the basics of that. And I usually lean towards trying to get the maximum number of people involved, but it's hard to dispute Antonio Beishu's familiarity with our structure and especially our Measure W and other taxes and our sales taxes, which is mostly what this Finance Committee does or reviews. I will start off by saying I think that Antonio Beishu would be my first selection.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councilmember
Sure. Again, this is probably the hardest stuff that we ever have to do when we're sitting up here looking at three wonderful people ready to volunteer here, and they were all very good. What I got out of the interviews was Measure W, a lot of Measure W, and Miss Conde, if I'm saying that right. I liked her response. How are you going to go out to the public? And she says, well, we're going to brainstorm it. And I thought that was probably one of the best answers I heard this evening. And again, Antonio, knowing the knowledge and hard work that he does here for all the community, and he just face it, he does a fabulous job. And I was impressed with David's resume as far as the finance. And being that Antonio is on another committee, I believe it's planning, you know, I like to spread it around a little bit. And so I think they're all very good. They're all qualified. But I would have to go for David Leach.
Thank you. Councilmember Lamb?
I'm still thinking about it, but I certainly concur with Mayor Pro Tem and Councilman Carnevale's assessment, because they were really strong. All three had so many different strengths. Antonio certainly has the knowledge, history, background. He's in the, you know, he's in the trenches in Cathedral City, you know, for a decade plus. So he's really participated, and he knows all about Measure W, and very cognizant of the fact that, you know, that money needs to be spent where the public voted for it. So, I mean, he understands that. And then Rose, you know, she had such a, you know, being in part of School Site Council and ELAC, the English Language Advisory Committee, having somebody that's bilingual, that can approach the community, that's resourceful, that understands how to work in a team, you know, those are absolute strengths. And then David, you know, he had this stellar financial background to add, you know, a new set of eyes. So I'm still thinking about it. I don't have a clear. There wasn't one person that just spoke to me, because any one of them could be, and I'll make my decision in a minute, I'm sure. Yes, I will. I'm thinking about it. You know, one of my things that in prior being part of the committee to interview was to have a new voice, and I really like that idea, to have somebody with a new set of eyes come in and have another opportunity for a person to volunteer in our city, because we're all not going to be participating forever and ever and ever. So, you know, I'm leaning towards David for that reason, not because of anybody, you know, has more strengths than the other.
Well, now you've made it very difficult.
The plot thickens.
Well, it is very difficult to pick one of the three when there's only one position that is open. Hopefully we can keep the second person, if there's ever a vacancy, to fill that position. But it really satisfies me that we do have great residents that are willing to participate, just like we have here. Right here, we have several members of our commissions and committees here, and I really appreciate what you do. And it's very difficult to pick one when they're all so good. And I have to also lean. I mean, we have one that participates all the time and in every single event, that I have no doubt that he will do a great job, which is Antonio. Then we have Rocio, that has been here for the longest time in our city and is willing to volunteer whatever the city needs. And then we have David, that has a new set of eyes as well, and he does have a ton of financial experience. And being this a finances type of committee that we're looking for, I think I'm also leaning towards that. So my choice will be, I wish we had two, it will be David and Antonio, but since we only have one, I have to lean towards David. Yeah.
And does that just stop us? We have a quorum, is that correct? We have 3 people who voted for David? Here come my words of wisdom. I also liked many people, but that isn't what we're appointing. It doesn't matter who I like or I dislike. We need to choose the person who's going to do the most qualified job. And I believe that David and is it Rosio? I believe that they both are nuggets who will learn as they go. I believe that, you know, David has this background with Merrill, which sounds great, but he doesn't know a lot about our city. I was just taken aback a bit by something Rosio said. She said, when we were talking about how do you finance things, and she said, well, you got Measure W, so we could just do another one of those. And that showed that lack of time on the block where you really understand where money comes from. And for those reasons, my first choice is going to be Antonio, who does have time on the block and who does understand how to work the runway. Thank you. Okay. Yes, I will tell you, so one of the things that I didn't share earlier is Antonio and I went together. Well, it didn't start with me, but then he came on board. We went to every single 55-plus community, and we brought them lunch. And this was a contribution we made, and but my husband and I made, and that we, well, actually, I think it came out of my budget. And we went to these 55-plus, and the first couple of ones, Antonio stayed back. He was the guy that carried the stuff in and carried the stuff out. But no, not really. No, we haven't appointed yet. By the time we got to the fourth or fifth one, he was running the show. And that's one of the things I want to look for in people as well. So not that it's him specifically, but I think that's an asset we would look for in any volunteer. Okay.
So I would move that we appoint Antonio Beishu to the open position.
The motion by Mayor Pro Tem Gregory and a second by Councilmember Lamb. Please vote. And motion carries all ayes with Councilmember Carnevale abstaining.
All right, thank you very much. Next, we're on to approval of contract agreement with City Detect. May we have a staff report, please?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This is also an item that you've seen before, actually several times in recent months. And we're to the stage where I think the outstanding items to work on have been worked out, and staff is ready to present this item for your action. Andrew.
Thank you, Charlie. Good evening again, Mayor, City Council. So as Charlie indicated, you have seen this several times already. I would say that this is an opportunity for us to celebrate some success. This was an item that actually was first introduced back at the council goal-setting workshop in January, as we talked about using technology, as we looked for operational efficiencies within code compliance. This was a tool that was introduced then as something we wanted to explore over the course of this year. And tonight we are presenting a contract for award to City Detect. Following the January presentation, we also mentioned this in our staffing and budget presentation. This is budgeted for the upcoming 2 fiscal years. It was mentioned in the study session presentation. We had an in-depth discussion with Justin Gardner and representatives from City Detect on May 28th, and again in the adopted budget that same night. So tonight we are presenting a 3-year service agreement with an annual cost of $73,600 and a total contract value of $220,800. This contract includes a 90-day termination clause for convenience, which effectively makes this a series of 1-year contracts, and we do get a little bit of a discount by making this a 3-year service agreement. Through this, City Detect will install and maintain 2 data collection units on city code vehicles. They will also provide training for code compliance staff. We have negotiated the contract with legal staff and City Detect, and it addresses all of the city concerns. The last presentation, we also shared with you an administrative policy that was not attached to your packet tonight. That has not changed, and if council were to adopt this contract, we would also execute that administrative policy. That administrative policy reinforces the use agreement contained within the contract, and it also is supported by the city's personnel guidelines. From here, if council adopts or the contract. We will work to finalize that administrative policy. We'll also work with City Detect to determine an implementation schedule. It's our goal to get on the schedule here in the next month or two, working closely with City Detect. That will start a process to install the units, to configure and test the systems, conduct the staff training, and really to deploy that full-scale data collection and AI process. I would expect that we will be up and operational before the end of the calendar year based on the timelines that have been shared with city staff. And with that, staff recommends City Council approve the contract with City Detect for the AI camera systems.
Questions from council?
I do, Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. My question is this: do you know which vehicles or what employees are going to be driving these two vehicles that will have the cameras? The reason being is that I want to make sure that if we're paying $73,000 per vehicle per year, I want to make sure, or for two vehicles per year, I want to make sure that these two vehicles are constantly moving. I wish we could install one in one of our patrol units because they're constantly moving around. But I want to make sure that if wherever we install it, since we're paying for it, I want to make sure that they're moving constantly throughout the city.
Yes.
So maybe consider installing one if possible in one of our units as well.
So these will be installed on code compliance vehicles, and the reason for that is this really is an operational decision when to turn the cameras on, when to turn the cameras off. This is a pilot program. We're still learning as we go, but the idea here is to collect data that we can then come back to the office, analyze, and identify those potential code violations. This still requires that human element. So even though we're collecting the data, we still need code compliance officers to review the data and take action based on it. So Justin Gardner and the code compliance team, they are working on those operational policies of just when those cameras are going to be on, how we parse through the data, how we use the data. But we are looking to maximize the return on that contract value, looking to increase the operational efficiency of the code compliance division through this technology.
Well, I'm happy to hear that you're actually talking about it and thinking about it so we can get the most out of them.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilor, anybody else? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you so much for continuing to work on this. Earlier this week, the wind was blowing like crazy, and the guys came by and they also cut the palm trees at the same time. And I looked at my yard and I thought, good thing we don't have City Detect yet, because it would come by and it would say I had a beat up yard. But then I remembered that there's going to be a human element in there that will look at such things and say, oh, okay, so that's, or at least it doesn't look that bad, or at least follow up on it. So things like that wouldn't be an issue. So I hope that's what's going to happen.
Yes.
Because there are sometimes temporary issues. And besides, as we've talked about, the issue is for code compliance. And so when something looks like a violation does occur, we won't be citing somebody the first minute. We'll be having some type of a discussion, either or sending them some type of a mailer or something else. So,
you are correct. And
so people don't need to be worried that this is going to be some autonomous Big Brother AI thing that's going to come out and cite them without there being the human element and some rationality built into it.
this does not change our approach to code compliance. We are working to educate before we ever issue a citation, and we operate with empathy and understanding. So circumstances like this, a windstorm where you have landscape debris in a yard, we're not going to be out there that same day issuing citations. We understand. So this is another tool in the toolbox. It's meant to increase the efficiency of the officers, but we operate seeking voluntary compliance before we take any further action.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Now, I expressed concern, and a lot of it's based on my own prior experience working in public safety, that they're going to be going around taking a bunch of photographs. And of course, the focus for code compliance and for the city is code compliance issues, but it's going to be taking a lot of photographs. And so I always worry about when there's a lot of photographs out there that privacy isn't respected, because those can be misused, and somebody can have a reason why they want to focus on a house for a personal reason. Say they have some kind of a relationship going on with someone, or they'd like to, with someone in the house. And so I'm always concerned to make sure that we have good privacy, and when there is an issue with privacy, that we have some way to figure out who's involved. So I know when we met before and spoke via remote to the owner, it got a little confusing because I was asking about security. And I see in here, and I understand that, of course, someone would have to have a login to get into the system to be able to look at the photographs, download the photographs, whatever they needed to do for work. But my question was, okay, so, but someone has a login, or login is used as, and then is there a way to track which photographs they actually look at? And I think that's where it kind of unraveled. Many law enforcement systems do have that. When you look at it's not just that you need to log in. Of course, you need to log in to go in, but when you actually look at a record, especially sensitive records, there's a way to tell who looked at that record. That way, if that record gets released later, then you can go back and say, oh, well, these are the people that logged in and looked at it over this period of time. So that's what I asked, or I meant to ask, if that capability was part of this database. So I don't know if we ever got an answer on that.
So I did ask that question, and my understanding of the answer is yes. The security protocols are such that you can identify who's logged in, who's in the system. And they shared last time that they have not had a need to do that, but they can. And as well, I would say that the privacy issues are addressed both in the contract as well as in the administrative policy. Only code compliance officers will have access to the raw data, to the reports. So that is a small group of city staff that would have access to any of this information. All of this information is information that can readily be collected from the public right-of-way, from the public street. And then beyond that, with the provisions that we have in the administrative policy as well as the personnel guidelines, city resources, including software such as this, are only to be used for city business. So there are penalties, if you will, that there are abilities for us to look at that. You know, as we identify, if we discover that it is being used for inappropriate purposes, there are processes, there are steps that we can go through, disciplinary actions that we can go through to address that specific issue.
Okay, and you do have a smaller group than what my past experience was, so sometimes that's a good thing, and I'm glad to hear that you're very conscious and will be restricting that. You know, what I hate to happen is a resident receive a text, you know, with a photograph of their house and a message saying, I know that your Sancho was there or something, you know, and it's obviously from our systems and we don't have some way to come back. So these things happen, but there needs to be consequences for those.
And I do believe that that is built in the administrative policy as well as our personnel guidelines.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Just a quick question. Is this going to give an overload of work for the individuals, the code compliance officers? I don't think we have that many violations out there. I'm sure we got a few, obviously, that gets thrown between the cracks. But is this going to overload it where they're just going to be falling in more information where they won't be able to be caught up with everything?
So this certainly is going to result in an introduction of new cases. And you've heard from Justin Gardner in past presentations him report that when he started, we had about 1,600 open cases. And we've worked hard to get that down below 1,000 and then below 900, below 800. And right now we're a little over 700 open cases. That's a manageable caseload. Right now, we're still down 2 code compliance officers. We're in the recruitment process. We're working to fill those positions. We have a new code compliance officer starting soon, so we're building up that staff capacity. That is something that we're going to have to monitor the total number of cases, to monitor that officer caseload, because you get to a point that you are overburdening staff and that officers have too many cases and you're going too long between inspections or contact, and that can have a detrimental impact. So I think that's a key part of what Justin Gardner is doing in terms of monitoring the utilization of the software and its impacts on the total caseload within the division and the individual officers. So as we deploy City Detect, we'll monitor that. We'll monitor how it's leading to new cases and really ensuring that we're staying on top of that issue.
Thank you.
Anything further from council? Thank you very much. City Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
I have none, Mayor. Are there any members of the public that wish to comment on this item? And I see none.
Okay, swinging it back. Council, just sure that you don't want to chime in? In that case, I'm looking for a motion.
Yeah, I do want to make a comment. I asked my question, if I could just make a comment about these cameras. This is, when it was brought to me first by Charlie and we talked about it, you know, we're a friendly city, you know, where you live is your domain. And, you know, I'm all about the police officers having their cameras, you know, for security reasons. But to be having these cameras go in neighborhoods and finding faults in neighborhoods, some important, some not so important, I think it's the wrong image that I think Cathedral City's putting out, that we're a friendly city. We you know, we love our residents here. But doing this is just kind of not right in my opinion. I don't know how to try to put it in words. So I just, you know, I'm not going to vote for it. Y'all can, that's fine. But I just think it's giving the wrong image to Cathedral City when we're forcibly going out there looking for this process of filming people's neighborhoods and their houses. So I just want to share that with the council and the community. Thank you.
So, you know, I think I share some of the concerns. So I think we're putting a lot of trust in our code compliance department and our management. And I almost chipped in last time. I said, well, I hope you're going to prioritize it's going to pick up all of this stuff. So I don't know if that's a problem, if there's going to be a public records issue or any of this kind of stuff, but I hope we're going to prioritize on health and safety, major issues, major trash, major this kind of thing. I hope we're not going to, because we'll probably have the capability better than we have now to turn into a de facto HOA type of thing. And I hope I do share some of your concerns that we're headed there. With that said, when there's technology there, and sometimes there's the argument that code has caught what they've caught a lot of times because somebody complained about it when there's a more dangerous issue 2 streets over. It seems we do need to use the technology to prioritize. But I think a lot of it is going to, whether this is going to succeed or not, is going to be on how well it's managed by the department. Because if it does turn into a melee of basically harassing people, then it's going to not be long. It's going to be back here in front of this council with a lot of complaints that'll look like a cannabis day out there, that just what you're saying is, hey, I've lived here a long time. This is not an issue. Maybe somebody is saying, oh, I just don't like this color, or this doesn't look neat. And it's showing up there. And if we get to that where we're concentrating on those people, yeah, this is going to be a big problem. And I'm glad that it can be discontinued in 90 days. But I do think we have an issue, and we really need to find some way to address it better. So I'm prepared to at least give this as a trial and see how it goes. And where I think there's going to be a lot of work for code compliance, city management, and us is deciding what to do with these issues, or when those issues do come forward. And I'll give this as an example of what I mean. So we've heard a lot about trash cans being visible. And we know that this is going to go around, and this is going to find all kinds of places where the trash cans are visible. But we have discussed at some length already, so I won't go through it, that there are certain houses where that's a problem. There are certain houses where they really don't look so bad. They're put back pretty far. We haven't resolved the issue about how we won't let people build screens in the front for their trash cans. Commercial places can do it, but residents can't, because they have to be so many feet setbacks and all these kind of things. I know we're looking at that. So hopefully we're not going to focus on that issue till we get this other issue kind of taken care of. Because when we do catch somebody and it's really, frankly, not that bad, there really needs to be some way that we can help them solve the problem. So again, I'm willing to support this with some reservations, but I'm putting faith that our code compliance and their management and our city management is going to use utmost discretion and responsibility when actually implementing this program. So.
Thank you. Councilmember Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one question for our city attorney. Now, can this contract be terminated at any time, or does it have to be an entire year, 2 years? When can it be?
90 days.
There's a 90-day provision where we can opt out of it.
Oh, okay.
It limits our exposure, and it gives us a chance to take a trial run, if you'd like to suggest it that way.
Okay.
But it can be implemented in any of the 3 years.
Well, thank you. Having that option is obviously that if there is an issue, we can actually opt out of it and get out of the contract. But regardless of those 2 cameras going out there into our neighborhood or our code enforcement officers, if they, for instance, go out there and they catch somebody and they cite them for 3 or 4 violations, well, it's not their fault for writing those violations. It's actually the property owner for having those violations. So it's not the camera's fault for recording any of those violations. The problem is, if there's a problem, it is us who actually make those ordinances. So it's not the cameras. So if the cameras come up with, hey, this home had 15 violations, is it the camera's fault or the property owner's fault? Well, if we want to get rid of those problems, then we as council have to decide in actually repealing our code enforcement ordinances, if that's this issue. But I think we have to give technology a chance, but also we cannot just use these cameras just for the sake of having them above a vehicle and do nothing with it. We have to make sure that we've continued to work in beautifying our city. That's what our residents want, and that's what I want as well. I want to live in a beautiful city. So that's my take from this. So I will do anything that will help beautify our city. And so I will be supporting this.
So work with me on this analogy. Big Brother can really swing both ways. So people say, oh, we hate Big Brother. They're always out looking. They're always out looking. Yeah, but they're always catching the kid that's in the pool and they get him out, before they drown. I mean, there's some good points to always being seen and always being visualized and being able to catch. You catch the good, you catch the bad. That's what happens with a camera that runs all of the time. I think we need to look at this rationally and say, although it's somewhat uncomfortable to think there's a bit of a surveillance going on in our neighborhoods, is the benefit what we will gain from being able to clean those areas up? And I am voting that it is worth it. So, like we've said, if it goes astray, we know just what to do. But in the meantime, I'm going to vote for the nice Big Brother. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I just wanted to say, too, that how I looked at this, I certainly concur with all your comments about, where does it go over the line, and, are we going to create an unsettling situation for our residents, and that's not our intent. And my intent is really to expand the ability of code enforcement to do their job. We entrusted them with the assignment of, cleaning up our city and help us, help the residents, let the residents know that this is an area that they might need assistance with. And how to do that, we have 6 people. So seems like not to take advantage of this would be silly. And the idea that it's, as our city attorney talked about. It's a trial. We'll see how it works, and it's up to code enforcement. The responsibilities on their big, broad shoulders, to use it to the best of its ability in the ways they know how to expand what they can do for their jobs and for the betterment and the beauty of our city. So that's how I saw it all along. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much.
If I may say, after listening to council and the way Mayor Pro Tem eloquently put it, where he's borderline to watch it so that they don't cross the line, I can agree with that. But if I have a picture of myself in my pajamas getting the paper in the morning, and in my pajamas, I'm going to be really upset, and you'll hear about it again. But yeah, I do want to support the code compliance, and I do want to beautify the city, like Mayor or Councilmember Gutierrez. We've always been big on it. It's just a camera thing had me just a little freaked out. But if we monitor it, and they're doing their end, and the community is good with it, I guess I'm going to go along with it. But yeah, we'll see how it goes from here. Reluctantly, I'm going to do it.
Thank you.
So, no,
We'll take that.
okay.
We'll
You
take
got
it.
it? You got it, man.
All right. Do we have anybody in the audience who would like to speak, in the
I
public?
believe I asked already, but we'll ask one more time. Are there any members of the public that wish to comment? Okay.
Would you say?
Just quickly give you a little bit of background since you're worried about that security and people seeing the photos. Sorry. So I did a post on this a while back, actually, when we first discussed it, and I was kind of expecting those sort of responses. According to Nextdoor, that post has been viewed a little over 2,000 times. So a lot of residents have already looked at it, and there were only a couple of comments that came back negatively. One was concerned about a slippery slope and there would be drones in his swimming pool next. I guess there could be, but I hope not. And the other was, will these cameras be able to see in through my windows? And again, no. So I think, the public are likely to be fairly comfortable with this. They know about Google's cameras. You can go and visit your house by looking at maps. And those cameras are everywhere all the time. And people are used to the idea now that, maybe, making sure your pajamas are properly adjusted when going out in the street, that would be a good safety precaution. But otherwise, yeah, I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue.
He might be famous if he doesn't. All right, thank you so very much. So do we have a motion to approve the staff recommendation on this?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Carnevale and a second by Councilmember Gutierrez. Please vote.
I'm trying. I'm coming. There we go. Is it going to be this? I think it has to be this. It has to be this. Yeah, that's the one. This one. This one. Well, I had three choices, and I got it on the third, so.
Mayor Ross, I do not see the vote. Would you like to verbalize it?
Thanks, that'd be great. Oh, look, it was there all the time, right behind somewhere. There all the time.
Okay, motion carries, all ayes.
Thank you so much. Next, we have item C, which is the 2025-2026 Community Assistance Grant Programs Award Council approval. We did have a subcommittee. I believe that was Mayor Pro Tem and Council Member, it was not you. Oh, Council Member Gutierrez and Council Member Lamb, and they carefully toiled over how do you give out $70,000 when there's $250,000 worth of wants. But they managed to whittle it down, and that is where we are today. So may we have a staff report, City Manager?
Well, that was a pretty good introduction right there, Mayor. So I'll just turn it over to Kevin Biersack, Financial Services Director, to
We can call it a day and it's over if you'd like. Once again, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, City staff. Community Assistance Grant Program Awards. We have two presentations back to back. This one is the traditional General Fund Community Assistance Grant Awards, and the next one is the General Fund for from the Public Arts Commission. So this first one, this in the adopted budget, it's already there, the $70,000 that you approved for both this year, this coming year, starting July 1st and July 1st of the next year. So we have the funding available. It's to support grant and sponsorship requests from community nonprofit organizations and other governmental jurisdictions. With the reinvention of the program, this is the third year, and these are the statistics of what you've had presented before you. 23-24, we had 25 applications, 19 of which were approved. Last year, we had 10 applications, 9 of which were approved. And this year, we have 30 applications that were received and 21 awards that are recommended for your approval this evening. The ad hoc committee, as you mentioned, the members of the subcommittee, to review the applications and make a recommendation. The program was advertised in mid-March. It was available for 5 weeks. It closed in mid-April. It was advertised on the city's website, communications and events. They loaded it on social media accounts and included it in the Discover Cathedral City website as well. I remember having a community update 1 week. The grant program application and the notice of publication were also available on not just the city website, but also the Discover website. Based on those applications that were submitted, 2 of our staff members put everything together for the subcommittee review, and we convened on Thursday, May 8th to recommend which grants to fund. The subcommittee recommended they made those recommendations, and they were finalized, and we have those presented to you for this evening. Oh, I went too quick. 30 applications received, 21 were recommended for grant assistance. Based on our review, based on staff review, 2 applications were determined not to meet the criteria. We have those noted in the subsequent slides, and we're also in the staff report. So on these next few slides, you will see the request or the ask and the proposed award. Slide 2, with respect to continuation, here's one of those that was identified as not being able to, and not only just so that you know, we do reach out to the organizations, we just don't take what's at face value. We contact to ask them to validate. So we were not able to come to closure on 2 of them. So in the end, we had about $230,000 worth of requests or asks for the $70,000 that we have as a budget. This is in support of our 5-year strategic plan, Goal C, and our overall objective. And the recommendation before you this evening on this item is to approve the grants that are total $70,000 from the upcoming 25-26 Community Assistance Grant Program and in our biennial budget. Any questions?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
So thank you for the presentation, and thank you for the committee for going through these. So often when you get these requests, there's 2 approaches to take, and one of them is to fund a bunch of them at or close to their request, and sometimes the tack to take is, after eliminating some, to spread the money around. So this one appears to be a spread the money around choice, because most of the applicants got at least something out of the request. There's always one downside to spread the money around, is that they made specific requests in many cases. In many cases of this, the requests were just for ongoing operations. So spread the money around probably works for that. But a few of them seem to be, you give us this money and we're going to use it for this specific purpose. We're going to do something with it. But if you give them less money, did someone go back to them and say, well, you asked for $5,000, but I'm only going to give you $2,000. Are you still going to be able to do the thing that you said that you would do if you got 5,000? Did anybody do that?
We do not do that. I mean, and that could be something we could incorporate in the future from a standpoint after the subcommittee review. We run with the recommendations from the subcommittee.
So if we approve this tonight,
To present to you
just
all.
basically send them checks.
No, we contact them, and we identify, so we will do that after this approval. We will contact them because, number one, we need a W-9. Number two, we need their commitment that they're going to identify what they did with the funds as a result of what they said they would do and what they end up doing. And that is also a requirement for the subsequent year.
And we'll talk about the subsequent, although there's much less there because it appeared the other approach went on that one where they fully or mostly funded most of them, and there's only, I think, one that they gave a reduced amount. So
I'm sorry. That's not what I was referring to, sir,
Oh.
with respect to the subsequent year. If we have someone
Oh, I
that
thought you said
comes,
subsequent
if
item.
we have someone that comes through and they are awarded money and then they do not follow through with respect to providing their feedback on what they did, then the subsequent year, if they submit a request, that would be something that we would deem that they would not be eligible. That's what I meant by subsequent year.
Well, it still doesn't get back the money you gave the first year, but I see what you're saying. You at least don't keep doing the same thing
sir.
over and over again.
But in this interim period from May 8th when we met until now, when we present to you, that is something we have not done in the past. We could evaluate that and consider that for the future, but we don't go back and ask.
Well, it would seem to make sense. For example, Palm Springs Air Museum, and I'm not saying they don't deserve it. We have supported them in many years, but they say we request $6,000 to offer a free weekend at the Palm Springs Air Museum for residents of Cathedral City, and then of course they go on further and explain their need. So that is something we've done in the past, but I think the recommended award is $3,000. So my question, so this is what apply to this. So if you give them $3,000, are they still going to do the free weekend, or are they going to say, well, we needed $6,000 for that, we'll take the $3,000, but we're not going to really provide anything except ongoing,
And we've typically found that when it is less than the ask, that when we receive our feedback on what they've done, it does go towards that. Okay. Is it in the same number?
Well,
no.
That's why I'm saying, would you contact them and say, hey, look, I know you asked for $6,000. The council was able to award you $3,000. You can explain why. We had, all these requests. Are you still going to be able to do what you said you're going to do? And if they say, well, no, we're not going to be able to do that, then do you say, all right, thanks, we're going to put the money back in the pot, and then we'll ask council again, hey, we had 4 of them that said they're not going to be able to do it.
We notify them, we ask for the W-9, and we request their concurrence. So when we request their concurrence, there's somewhat of an implication we can be more explicit.
Okay, that would be my recommendation.
We can do that.
Does council see what I'm saying?
No, not really, because it seems unreasonable.
I say, if you come to my house and you give me, want you to paint my house, and I say, well, it's $5,000, and you say, well, I'm going to give you $3,000, and I wouldn't just send a check. There would be a negotiation then to say, well, are you still going to be able to paint my house for $3,000? You're going to be able to paint part of it for $3,000? What are you going to do with the $3,000? It seems like the city, they're not really contracts, but you have the applications where you say, if I get money, what am I going to do with it? And then we come back and say, well, we approve half, and then we just send them the check. It's like, well, are they going to do what they said they were going to do or not?
Of course not. You can't do it for half the money. If that was, the offer you made, you said, I can do it for this amount of money.
Well, then why are you giving them any money?
I don't know. Maybe the answer is you don't.
Well,
if you can't fully.
That's why I'm saying this is a downfall of giving a lot of groups only part of what they asked without going back and saying, look, we've agreed to fund, we're only going to give you a part. Now, on this one, a lot of the requests are, hey, I've got this ongoing operation, it costs this much money, I've got this program, your maximum is this amount, we asked for a maximum or we asked for a certain amount of money, but we know it's not going to be the whole thing. So my guess would be that's not a problem. You give them part funding, it helps them out as far as their fundraising somewhere else and that type of a thing, and they're able to continue on with their operation. But there are a few that are saying, if you give me this money, this is what I'll do. And
but like Palm Springs, maybe would just do Saturday free instead of a weekend free.
They would. Yeah. But that's always my question is, well, did we bother to go back and ask. So what I'm hearing is you are, and it does make sense, you don't do it till after the award, because what if the council changes it, right? Change their mind, or, we change it. So it makes sense to me if you're saying, well, we go back afterwards, but we do have a little discussion about, especially the ones that it said, I'm going to be able to do. Are you accepting this, and are you still going to be able
And
to
maybe
do?
we need to be a little bit more forward and explicit rather than just as implicit as we may have been in the past. But when we get their feedback, it matches. So in that example of the Air Museum, it's half, and they're funding. And so sometimes it's like, well, we'll fund 10 people or 10 families. And if they get half, it's funding 5 families or 5 people.
But we get that feedback. So, or I would ask that we get that feedback.
Yeah,
We
and
don't
we
get that,
do.
we?
And
I would ask we get that
so
feedback.
in securing the funding, when we contact them, they know that they're going to report to us what they did with it. And we match that out.
All right.
And if they don't report, they're not eligible next year.
All right. Well, I'm glad to hear it, and I'm glad to hear that we have, and I think we need to have that conversation.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem, I totally agree, because like Coachella Valley Rescue Mission, a great organization, they asked for $25,000 and they were awarded $5,000. And, and of course they give out food, they give out clothes, they do a lot. So instead of getting $25,000, they only got $5,000. But I would assume that $5,000 is still going to buy a lot of socks or a lot of groceries, and they would be accountable for what they use that $5,000 for.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Does that make sense? I mean, I know it's a far cry from 25.
And we ask them to account for what they use their grant with. So they give that to us in a
But we wouldn't say to them, can
report.
you still do that, whatever you were going to do for 25,000, we're going to give you 5, but can you still do that?
Oh, no, everything they've listed here is
That would be
impossible.
unreasonable. It'd be
Correct.
unreasonable.
It's a subset.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll
Any other
take the
questions from
feedback.
council?
Thank you.
Not a question, but a comment. Mayor Pro Tem is absolutely correct. Maybe in the future, we can, to avoid that, that can be one of the questions that is actually in the application. If you are awarded less, what would you do with the money? You're able to actually, what would you be able to do if you're awarded less? It's that way they know, and you don't have to call them, what will they do? But on the other hand is, all the applicants, Councilmember Lamb can agree with me, all the applications, with exception of 1 or 2, were all just great applications that do amazing things for people in general, many of them, most of it, for Cathedral City residents. So I wish we had all the money to fund them all, but it will be impossible. But Councilmember Lamb did an amazing job, and out of all those applications, it was actually very interesting to see that when I came up with my list and the amounts that I wanted to award each out of the 21 applicants, we actually matched about 15 of those without talking.
Agreed. There was not a lot of negotiation that had to happen between the two. They were pretty much on the same page.
Yeah, so you did a great job, but I wish we could award every single application to the maximum.
Right.
The question add that extra question may be the ticket.
Yeah, thank you.
And going forward, whoever is the subcommittee going forward, whether it's me and, Ernesto or whoever it is, that there's if we feel more comfortable with that, there's a one-to-one correspondence between the money they're asking for and the money that they get and the list. And we had lots of conversations about whether to give, some form of funding to as many as we could, or to limit the number of people that we were considering based on the $70,000. So, it would make it a lot easier for whoever's on the subcommittee if it's a one-to-one correspondence. We've got 70,000. These are the 5 that we picked that are going to get the 70,000 for the full funding of it, and that's it. I mean, that's it.
Why there's a subcommittee.
That's why there's a subcommittee. So there's lots of discussion every time, but this would end all discussions. I mean, that's just the way it goes. And that subcommittee for that year prioritizes those 5 or 6 nonprofits, and the rest, oh well, that's the way it goes. So, but I did want to make one comment about, because I had forgotten to mention it during my council comments. the Coachella Valley Disaster Preparedness Network. We had our emergency preparedness event it was June, I think it was June 2nd or 3rd on a Saturday, and I forgot to mention it was at Agua Caliente Elementary School. It was wonderfully attended. And I kind of dropped the ball on notifying the Coachella Valley Disaster Preparedness Network volunteers, and they came out anyway, and they did just a stupendous job in assisting our Cathedral City Fire Department staff in doing this presentation for the community, and spent time afterwards talking one-on-one with all the residents, families who came and gave the kids coloring books. So I just want to thank them publicly. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So at this time, is there anybody who would like to make a public comment, City Clerk? That would be.
I did not
that would be
receive
those
any
three.
request to speak forms, but if you're a member of the public that wish to comment on this item, please raise your hand. And I see none, Mayor.
Thank you so much. So I can circle back to council, but we were just there, so I'm going to ask for a motion, please.
Move approval?
Maybe vote.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Gregory and a second by Councilmember Lamb. Please vote.
Thank you so much.
And
We're
motion,
on item D.
motion carries all ayes.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor. I'm going to excuse myself and leave early, if that'd be okay with council. If I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney, do we need to take a vote to excuse his partial absence, or is that only for full absence of meetings?
No, it's only if he's going to miss a whole meeting.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move forward. Item D is the fiscal year 25-26 Community Arts Grants Program Award. Mr. City Manager, please.
Thank you. This is the corresponding grant program for arts organizations. It's $20,000 in the budget. I would like to point out that in this case, the Public Arts Commission served as the committee that reviewed the application, and two of the members I see are here out in the audience. Wave at them, guys, so they can see you. Kevin will give the presentation on this one as well.
So my name is not Ann Ambrose, but I am here on behalf of Ann Ambrose.
What, a wig? We'd never know the difference.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Community Arts Grant Program, once again from the general fund. So as we go along, if you have any questions, feel free or save them till the end. This grant program is $20,000. It is, as I stated, from the general fund and it's called the Community Art Grant Program to support projects that further providing art events and programs to the community. This is the second year of the program. This year there were 13 applications were received, and 6 awards are presented for approval based on, as the city manager said, the Arts Commission reviewing all of the applications. Same advertising. It was a 5-week period from mid-March to mid-April. It was also advertised on the city's website, social media, Discover Cathedral City, and it was also sent directly to many local and regional arts organizations. June 3rd is when the commission actually met to review and recommend. These are the 6 applications, the asks, and the proposed awards for these 6 organizations. Separately, these are the 7 organizations and their asks that did not receive an award. So tonight's recommendation is to approve the Public Arts Commission's recommendation to award 6 grants totaling $20,000 for the FY 25-26 Community Arts Grant Program, which once again is included in the biennial budget for the next 2 years.
Thank you so much. Council, questions?
Yes, thank you. So I have the same question on here. So although there are fewer of them, there are a couple that were recommended for the full funding. There are some that were not.
Correct.
So some of those, like Desert Ensemble and Green Room, of course, their projects were actually multiple thousands of dollars more than what they request. So one could assume, although I hate to assume, that they're probably going to fulfill their program anyways. They're just going to have to raise additional funds somewhere else. But the last one, the film one, they were asked for $5,000, and that was their full. There was their full request, and then the recommendation is for half of that. So it goes back to the same thing, I guess, for all of those that didn't get their full request. Is there some discussion then, or we're not just going to send them a check? Are they actually going to do what they said they're going to do?
Same thing happens with respect to, it's just not a blanket check, because there is dialogue with respect to, I know that last year, with Ann being the staff liaison, that she contacted the awardees last year and had back and forth. I'll pass on the same concern with respect to it on that one example.
All right.
And maybe something can be tweaked as well with that grant application next year.
Perhaps.
For the same.
All right. You'll get a chance in just a second. So when it's time, please come up and fill me in, because I do want to hear. But it's just the same concern. That we have a back and forth dialogue. And so again, from the prior presentation, I'm glad to hear that you do, that we just don't assume that, that somebody said they're going to do something if we ask for a certain amount of money and then they get a partial funding, and then we assume they're going to do it, and they might be assuming, well, you don't expect me to do it because you didn't give me full funding. As long as there's some discussion. Most places, most of these nonprofits, if it's important enough for them and the commission has gone through and really vetted it, we're gonna assume that they're gonna find other funding so that they can get their project done. But again, I think it's important that we have that dialogue, and it sounds like that's planned. And then again, that maybe we can cut some of the need for a lot of dialogue out by having some other questions on the applications.
Sounds good.
I agree with that. And Director, it might be as simple as saying, as an example, you're asking for $10,000 for your music program, and we're going to end up funding them at the $5,000. But the contract says that you will spend the money towards that project, or if you do not get the full amount, on a similar reduced cost item. So it's still going to be music.
And that's the kind of question I'm thinking based on what I'm hearing. If it's a reduced amount, will you still be able to use that amount towards this same program?
It might even be in the contract. That just, we understand. Not everybody gets full funding, but we'd still like it to be in that vein. That way we're not killing ourselves trying to figure it out. Something like that work? Okay, yeah, okay. All right. Oh, gosh, darn it. I don't have enough here to pull them out. Oh, dangling. Okay. So any more questions from council? Are we good? Are we good? Okay. Members of the public? City Clerk.
Yes, we have our commissioners.
I'm sorry.
Vice Chair Travis.
Hi, I'm Rick Travis, and I'm one of the commissioners. And just to put your mind at ease, Mayor Pro Tem Gregory, is that in our application we ask, do you have other funding? Would you be willing to take less money? And we ask those things, and then we ask where the other funds may come from. So that's what the decisions were made from.
Does anybody say no, we're not willing to accept less money?
Then they won't get they won't get it. Yeah. But they understand that in their application that's a possibility. Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other
and that may be
members?
something we incorporate in the other, because we don't actually tie back to that blatant question. So that might be included in the $70,000 program.
And we do have Chair Liebelt as well, would like to speak.
I see him sneaking up behind you. Quick.
Yes, just two more cents. Good evening, everybody. The other thing about it, we have a very committed and passionate Arts Commission, and I personally tried to attend almost every event that we funded and supported last year, because I wanted to see who was attending, the diversity, the amount of people, that our money was being well spent. And if it wasn't myself, the other commissioners were doing the same thing. So we fully attended. We go for the diversity in who we select. We want a range of programs that benefit all parts and aspects of the community. And the more articulate and well-written they are, we get a better understanding of what they're going to do and how they're going to pull it off. And sometimes the ones we have to shy away from are the ones that are too vague and they're not explicit, so that we can make those exact, kind of decisions and understand what's going to happen and what's going to understand with the funding. So the more articulate they are, the better we can understand it, the stronger we can support it. And then it just comes down to how we can pick like the most diverse programs. And then we try to support them by showing up ourselves as much as we can. So we're making sure that we're getting a good return for what we're investing in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, then, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve?
We have a motion by Councilmember Gutierrez and a second by Councilmember Lamb. Please vote. Councilmember Gutierrez, do you see the vote screen?
Oh, yeah, we got it.
And motion carries all ayes with Councilmember Carnevale absent.
Thank you so very much. So we're getting to the end here. The next item is item E. It is to ratify nominations by council members for commission/committee seats and appoint individuals to serve a 3-year term to expire June 30th, 2028.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This is for all of the board and commission slots that fall under the ordinance that provides that council members make the nominations that are then ratified by the city council. Many of them are reappointments of existing council members, commission members to an additional term. In those cases, I can say that the staff liaisons were contacted in these cases, and they support the reappointment of the individuals where it is reappointment based on their performance on the commissions already. I would like to point out there is one or a couple of things that I want to make sure you're aware of, and we did provide the attendance report to council both in my weekly update a few weeks ago, but then it was emailed again this week at the request of one of the council members. Dean Kiefer has served 2 terms on the Architectural Review Committee. The ordinance gives you the opportunity to appoint somebody for a 3rd term when you feel that's in the best interest of the city. In this case, staff feels it's in the best interest of the city. He's a current member that's done a good job, and we did not have other applicants. And that was a nomination by Councilmember Ross. The other Architectural Review Committee reappointment is Tanner Haas for the Architectural Review, and that's one of the ones that there were some attendance issues that showed up on that list. One of the things I've discussed with staff is that they're going to evaluate meeting times for the Architectural Review Committee to try to address some of those issues, and staff does support the reappointment of that individual as well. On historic preservation, John Rivera showed up on the attendance list. He has indicated that he has made arrangements with the employer so that it should not be a problem in the future. So I think that's all I need to say about those. The item is to ratify the nominations by the individual council members.
Thank you, City Manager. Do we have any questions from council on this?
It's no secret I'm the one that asked about the attendance because this has been an issue for a number of years because the council, we appoint people, they want to be on the commissions, and many of them do great jobs. And of course, they have things that come up in their lives and they miss an occasional meeting or two. But it seems like there are always a few that miss a lot. And the problem is the ordinance says in no unequivocal terms that they are subject to be removed from the commission if they're missing too many meetings. But we're not made aware until the end of the year that they've missed so many. And so we have asked before to get periodic reports, and for a while we were getting them monthly, and then that dropped off, and quarterly, and then that dropped off. So now we're back in a situation where a whole year has gone by and we get a report and we find out that a few people, most people, of course, had what would be considered normal attendance, but there are a few people that missed most of the commission meetings for the year. I mean, again, you brought up one that, for architectural review, that missed 5 in the year. I don't know how many times they met in the year, because I know sometimes they get continued. Some of that's probably because they can't make a quorum, or, they have notice ahead they can't make a quorum. So I'm certainly not picking on any of these people that are volunteers, but if it doesn't make sense to me that they wish to remain on commissions and committees, but they're not there, because what good is it for them to be on a committee when they're only there once or twice a year? So I am okay with this initial report that we got did have some explanation, and some of them said, I've realized it now, and I'm able to make some adjustments, and I'm going to do better. I'm okay with taking them at further word on that. We did have one, though, that basically said, hey, I got a job, and my job's more important than this commission, and so if something happens and I got to work, well, I'm just going to miss. So those are the ones I'm concerned with, and that is architectural review. If you are looking at working with that member and you have confidence that you're going to be able to adjust the times or do something, I'm okay with that. So I'm okay with moving this forward, but with the big but, we need to change our policy so it complies with the ordinance. And each of these commissions and committees has a staff member who is assigned that is the responsible staff member. And I would like to see within the next 90 days, the city manager bring back a policy that says something to the effect of, when a commissioner or a committee member is absent, the staff member will contact them, inquire about the reason for their absence, and take steps if needed to try to alleviate that. But if their absence is one of those ones that triggers the ordinance, that they'll immediately notify the city manager so that they can notify the council, and the council can take the steps that we're supposed to do under the ordinance. Not wait a whole year to find out that, oops, this person violated it a couple of times. It should be dealt with right then and there. And that was always the intent. But for some reason, no matter how much we tried, keeps going on and on and on and happening again. So, city manager, do I need to make that part of my motion, or can you work on that policy on your own?
Just to add something, I think personally, I would like to see an email go out instead of a phone call so that we have documentation when it comes back.
Okay, yeah, I don't care how the contact is, but it just, it just shocks me that a year goes by and then we ask for this attendance report, and then we're contacting and then we're saying, well, hey, you've missed a whole bunch this year. What's going on? And then we're like, oh, well, I could have adjusted it, but I just didn't realize I missed so many. It's like, really? You're not having that dialogue? So I really think we need to put this in a policy so staff knows, the staff members that are assigned to committees know that when somebody is absent, you just can't ignore it and put it in the minutes. You have to actually count how many they've been gone, have a discussion with them as to what, it might just be they were sick, or so it doesn't have to be exhaustive. But, and then if they do, by realizing, hey, oh yeah, this is their third one in a row, I think that's what triggers the ordinance, then I need to let the city manager know, because we need to either address it, or there's a reason why, and so the council can say, oh, okay, that's a reasonable reason why, or what, so.
And to your question, you can include it in your motion if you want to, but I think I got the direction from that.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So do we have a motion to, oh, no, I'm sorry. Are there anybody from the public?
All right, if you're a member of the public and wish to comment on this item, please raise your hand. I see none, Mayor.
All right, then.
All right, with extreme gratitude to our committee and council, or commission members who are very faithful attenders and active, I will make a motion to approve these appointments, and also include that the city manager within 90 days is to develop a policy addressing reporting of commission and committee attendance as outlined.
Do we have a second?
So we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Gregory and a second by Councilmember Lamb. Please vote. And motion carries, all ayes.
Okay, I don't want to get you too excited, but this is our last lettered item. IRS Section 115 Trust Plan for Other Post-Employment Benefits, OPEB. City Manager, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Kevin Biersack, your Financial Service Director, is here to present this item. I'd also like to point out that Greg Jackson, our City Treasurer, is here and was involved in this as well. So this is a proposal that we believe will increase the earnings in our OPEB trust fund, and Kevin will present this to you.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. And for geek people like ourselves that are accountants, this is your final agenda report for the fiscal year.
I said kind of
So you're ending it on a bang. So once again, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, what you have before you this evening is the Section 115 Trust Plan for Other Post-Employment Benefits, or what we affectionately call OPEB. Questions as we go along or at the end? Thank you. Background, back in August of 2021 is when the city elected to enter an OPEB pre-funding agreement with CalPERS, because that's the way you went back then. And we opted to go with their California Employers Retiree Benefit Trust, affectionately known as their CERT. At that point in time, we were able to take monies that we had set aside in a reserve account within our insurance fund that were about $9.2 million. And we sent those money forth to CalPERS, and we set up our CERT account. 3 years later, and the next slide you'll see how the amounts progressed. We're at 15 million plus. It is a non-binding agreement with CalPERS, but it is binding in that we have set monies aside for our OPEB that ties back to our biennial report that we have done. That's an actuarial report that we're in the process of doing. That report is done in the odd years. So this is 2025, and we're having that report done by our actuary, Foster & Foster. So this is the funding trend over the 3-year period from FY22 to current with respect to the contributions that were made, the funding, and any investment earnings that happened. So in total, based on the highs and lows of the marketplace, we have secured about $700,000 plus in earnings or in interest as the market fluctuates. So as of the end of the third quarter of our fiscal year, the first quarter of the calendar year, we are at 15 million and change. And we get this report about 30 to 40 days. We're able to actually go into the website. So come late July, early August, we'll know how much we had on balance as of 30 June with the CERT program at CalPERS. Why use a Section 115 trust? And I've highlighted in yellow the purpose for why we're using it here, and that is to pre-fund OPEB benefit liability. You could also use it to pre-fund pension contribution or as a budget stabilization tool, which kind of go hands in hand with the budget stabilization tool for what we're doing here. But this is the primary purpose is for the benefit liabilities. The benefits to be derived are earnings are non-taxable. The investment restrictions applicable to the investment policy are different for this kind of funding, for this kind of policy. It allows for use of relatively higher discount rates. IRS approval is not required, and there are no annual IRS filings.
So unless you're going to talk about it further, can you talk a little, you listed it as a benefit about investment restrictions, but many of those investment restrictions are meant to keep money safe. So
I believe I'll be talking about that later.
All right.
And with respect to subsequent slides. So after reviewing the current investment portfolios and services, it was determined that it would be good to look at improved investment flexibility, customization, transparency, and service. And it could be achieved by potentially transferring our plan and administration of our portfolio to a different program provider. So a potential change that we discussed, we brought forth at 2 different occasions earlier this calendar year. In January, we met with the mayor pro tem, city manager, assistant city manager, myself, with respect to reviewing with Schuster Advisory Group, who ironically is the group that we went with last year for our 457 deferred compensation and our 401A program. When we consolidated that from 3 providers to 1, Schuster Advisory Group is the organization that we went with, the firm that we went with. So based on the feedback with respect to the January session that we had, we then went forth and we worked with Greg Jackson and had a similar type session that the mayor and the mayor pro tem had in January. We had that with Greg. As Charlie pointed out, he's here in the audience, and we did that in March. So based on those 2 sessions that we had, we concluded that the program that Schuster provided would provide more flexibility of investment options, and that the fees would be competitive for the services provided.
The fees are going to be competitive, but they're frankly much more than the CalPERS charges.
That is true, and I
So
do
they're
have
competitive with other firms that do this similar things.
Yes, sir.
All right. Just pointing that out because the argument in the staff report was a little bit, to me, was a little bit misleading. That might not be the right word, and just that it spoke about, we like Schuster because Schuster got us lower fees on these other plans. And then it talks like this, and it's got competitive fees, but then if you look at it carefully, it's saying competitive fees to other private plans, but actually, it never points out that it's actually, I mean, the numbers are there, but there's nothing in the dialogue that points out, well, it's actually much more than what the CalPERS plan is.
In the attachments, so there was no intent, sir, with
I'm not
respect to
saying,
that?
that's why I say it's probably not the right word. I'm just saying this, the way it's written, it leads to a conclusion which may be correct, but it seems to give as one of the pros of this, the fees as a pro. And I don't look at the fees as a pro because the fees are higher, which may be offset by other things that are bigger pros.
And hopefully we'll get there with respect to some of the pictures.
All right, thank you.
And some of what we have portrayed. So CalPERS versus Schuster, the customization of portfolios, number 1. So with CalPERS, 3 investment portfolios for OPEB and 2 for pension stabilization. We're dealing with OPEB. And pension, so with respect to Schuster, in what was briefed back in January and March, and I have a snippet of a slide that was in that 40-page presentation, Schuster offers 11 standard risk portfolios that you tie back to, 50-50 is balanced, over to the far left, the most conservative, a 10-90, or over to the most, on the far right, a 90-10 or 100. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a subsequent slide. With respect to customized IPS and the investment policy not subject to the code 53601, Schuster is a yes there. The different types of investments that can be offered, we're not only limited to utilizing certain investment managers, but they can tie back to their platform and they can construct portfolios allocating different types of investment with different types of managers. And keep in mind with respect to doing this, and we talk about this a little bit later, Schuster will do this in coordination with the financial services director and the elected city treasurer, so that there's that check and balance with respect to that. Performance, and we'll see this in some of the comparisons. Typically, CalPERS underperforms the equivalent Schuster composite models. And so tied to that, you'll see a few demonstrations of what that performance would be on the difference. And yes, there is a higher cost through the Schuster program versus the CalPERS program, but we feel that the benefits of the flexibility and the investment options outweigh.
Okay, and I was just going to jump in there?
Yes, ma'am.
So what Mayor Pro Tem was talking about on, I'm not sure, it doesn't have the page number, but it talks about CalPERS administrative costs are 0.05% of the assets, and Schuster's administrative costs are 11% of the assets. Is that what you're?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to.
And I do have a slide on that, too.
Okay, I was just trying to figure out where okay, thank you.
So with that, tied to the portfolio management, there's more potential for enhanced financial performance due to those customizable portfolios, the flexibility to adapt to changing risk models, and fund company diversity. As I pointed out before, Schuster provides 11 different investment strategies, combining both active and passive investment solutions to take advantage of an optimum mix of investments for both an investment return and a cost perspective.
And what are we projecting for the return?
We're almost there. Not necessarily projecting, but we're tying back to past performance.
Past performance.
And what's been out there. I've already pointed this out. It would be in coordination with the financial service director and the city treasurer. Schuster will provide a custom portfolio at no additional cost. Attached in your staff report was a client list with respect to Schuster and their Section 115 trust clients and their defined benefit clients. That was dated in September of last year and was tied to the presentation we received. They've since updated that and provided that within the last day and have provided an updated client list as well. So this is the snippet talking about the 11 different models. So in this chart, if you go for what's basically there in the middle of the road approach, in our discussions, the elected treasurer, myself, London Pyle, who's our fiscal officer that manages our treasury functions, in working with Greg and myself, we do not foresee that we are the type of people that, an organization that would go to the right, models 8 through 11. So we would not look at anything higher risk than model 7. And typically we would be in the 5 and 6 range. And depending upon what's going on out there in the world with respect to the marketplace, we could see ourselves migrating over to the left with respect to the models that are, like for example, model 4 that would be a 3070, a model 3 that would be a 2080, that type of thing. So there could be more opportunity to have to migrate over to the left, but we really don't see migrating over to the right. In the ideal world, we would see that we would mostly be playing ball in the 5 and 6 arena when you look at the models. The 40-60 of moderate, the 50-50 of balanced. There could be opportunity for potentially trying to leverage moderate growth in the 60-40 range. So then when you tie back to, and this is where we'll tie back to a couple of examples, when you look at Schuster models and you look at year-to-date returns and you compare it to a CalPERS 1-year return, when you tie back to over in the first large box, over to the right, the rolling 1-year terms, if you look at the Schuster models and you do a comparison of those potential opportunities for returns, you see a range of 7.26 to 16.33. If you deal in what was on the previous slide, it would be a range of 10.81% and 13.89% in comparison to the 9.3 CalPERS 1 year. When you look down at the bottom with respect to, we are part of the CERT program. On the next two slides, I'd like to point, you can see there, we have a 40-60, a 50-50, and a 70-30. For your purposes and our purposes, I'd like to show you the next two slides of the 40-60 and the 50-50 return of the 6.23 CalPERS to the 10.81 for Schuster, and the 8.15 of CalPERS and the 12.06 for Schuster. So In that model, you can look at the mix with respect to, and this did come from the attachment that was included in your staff report as an attachment. Under the strategy 3, the sort of strategy 3 of OPEB 4060, comparison to Schuster's portfolio, the moderate 4060, you can see what the asset allocation, what the mix would be of those investments. And you can see how it provides more opportunity and more customizable investments that would be monitored and we would have eyes on seeing that monitoring that we currently don't have today with respect to CalPERS and the CERP program. The other option I wanted to point out, the other portfolio comparison is the 50-50. So when you look at the CERP strategy 2 for what they have with respect to their allocation of investments versus the balanced approach from Schuster, you can see all the different opportunities and what you see down below with respect to the efficiencies, the strategy used with the portfolio management being more customizable. We have, as I said, the visibility, the access. So being able to tie back to the comparison of those two mixes, to be able to achieve that 3 to 4 percentage point difference that if you go back to 2 slides before, as a reminder, on the 4060, it was 6.23% through CalPERS versus 10.81. So we're looking at about 4.5 percentage points higher. The 50-50, we're looking at almost 4 percentage points of the 8.15 versus the 12.06. So this is where that extra earnings comes into play, but yes, at a higher cost. And that's where the slide that both the Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Lamb brought up with respect to when you look at the CalPERS CERP program and its 5% administrative costs, and then you look at the Schuster program, which ties back to the administration of Schuster, the custody because they partner with Charles Schwab, the trustee, and their fee, and then the investment management, which comes back to Schuster again. We're at it's more than double, the 0.05 to the 0.11. And so that is the cost associated with being able to potentially achieve those investment gains.
Is there a simple way to explain why there's a bank involved and the trust company involved?
Well, they partner with Charles Schwab to be able to do their work, and then you have a trust company that is the trustee. CalPERS has all of these elements at CalPERS. And it's the different specialties that are offered with this partnership.
Everybody has their fingers in it, is what you're saying. Everybody has their fingers in, right? So the bank charges, which doesn't sound high, 0.01, but when you're talking about millions of dollars, you're talking about money. So, and then it's just the way it is, right?
And it's leveraging their expertise. Vice at CalPERS, in their program, they have their different elements with respect to their staff and their expertise.
Their expertise. They're not offering anything, any advice or anything, not telling you how to invest.
Maybe I'm being too flip or kind.
Well, sometimes it's just that's the way the money, it's set up that way so that you have somebody who's watching somebody else.
The hand versus
and you have to pay for that, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
The different roles.
I just wondered if there was something I'm missing there. It has to flow a certain way, but it sounds like that's what it is.
So if we proceed, and there was a strategy in doing this at the end of June because we would not do this until next year, meaning July, because we have to report on an annual basis for our financials. And there is, if we go this route, we will be doing a separate Government Accounting Standards Board in our annual comprehensive financial report, or our ACFR. So we will be having a new citation above and beyond the existing citation that we have today for GASB 74 with respect to that. So tied to this would be the implementation timeframe. When you add it all up, call it a month. Potentially that if you all give us the go-ahead, but we would probably be looking at probably having this done by the end of July. When you look at the time frame of doing the documentation, having it complete, having everything set up for the documents between the different parties, then having the account set up, and then doing the funding.
So when you're saying next year, you're talking about next fiscal year?
Yes, sir, come July.
All right.
Meaning, yes.
I was thinking, oh, it's not going to be till 26, but no, you're talking
Yes.
about next fiscal year. But
Because we'll end this June and we'll be able to do our accounting on our financials the way we've done it. And then we will move to this for this next year with this new provider. This is in support of our strategic plan on our overall objective. And the recommendation before you is to adopt the resolution that is attached to the agenda report, approving the multiple employer OPEB pension 115 trust administered by Schuster Advisory Group, and to discontinue the city's current participation in the CalPERS administered CERT program.
Well, Kevin, he's been so polite. Should we let Greg chime in on this?
Certainly.
Just can't sit back there and look pretty. Now, come on. That's why you get paid the big bucks, right? Like we do.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. We've had the discussions. I agree with what Director Biersack has said, and I do agree with, moving forward with this proposal. So I think that with the flexibility of the investments, it makes sense with the associated fees.
all right.
Thank you. I appreciate your input.
Thanks, Greg.
And I just want, what was the genesis of the interest in doing this? I mean, what prompted the idea of?
Schuster brought it to us after we had done the 457 and 401A with respect to the opportunity of how things had grown since 2021 and having the opportunity to be able to have a more flexible program through a collaboration of this kind of a team versus what was available to us in 2021 and joining CalPERS and the CERT. And then we investigated it, did our due diligence to get educated on it, had the 2 meetings that we had in January and March, and then made the determination to present and recommend going forward. And a big portion of it tied back to when you look at the slide with respect to the 3 that we would play ball in, whether it's the 40-60, the 50-50 investment strategy, or the 60-40, in being able to have, number one, the visibility, because we kind of sit on the sideline every year, both with CalPERS and our regular pension and with our CERT, and we tie back to, well, how well are they doing from an investment strategy standpoint? They're the actuaries, they have their team, and we look at every year. Last year, we were fortunate. 12.9% investment earnings in CalPERS. The year before, it was -6. And their goal, just on the pension side, is to have, they're meeting 100% if they achieve 6.8%.
Right.
And so when you're at a -6.1% like we were 2 years ago, wow, we were 12, almost 13 points down. Last year, we hope to have good news when we get our CalPERS reports in late July, early August for this past year, because it's always a year in arrears. Since last year it was 12.9%, that should have a positive impact on our unfunded actuarial liability for our 3 classic firm groups, and then for our 5 that we are in the high 90s on being almost fully funded. We should see positive results. But at the same time, we sit on the sideline throughout the year and we're like, well, let's hope CalPERS finishes on a high come June 30th. And we know what kind of a percentage we have. Here we are in it's in more of our control, and we are responsible for our destiny with respect to that and managing it. And So it's not just me, it's not just Greg, and it's not just Schuster. And so not only is Schuster part of a team with respect to their relationships that they have with Schwab and the trustee, but they're also part of our team as well, and they're obviously looking out for our interests because it's a win-win. We do good, they do good, based on the value of the assets. So when you evaluate it and you see those 3.5% to 4.5% differences between CalPERS CERT and what the opportunity is, it seems to make sense. Because even at the lower end, when you go more conservative, you have to dial back because Lord only knows what's going on out there in the world today. But when you have to dial back, well, we're in control of making sure we dial back based on what we see, and we look to Schuster to provide that advice.
Thank you.
So while you're on that topic.
Yes, sir.
So you did show us, or Schuster showed us, 1 year return on CalPERS and 1 year return on their similar portfolio, plus other portfolios. Did they provide a 5-year and a 10-year so you can see if that was just an anomaly, or?
They did not provide it. We had that discussion from the standpoint, but keep in mind, look at how long in this example it's been, because in 2021, we didn't have that option to go with that.
I got you. And like you said, CalPERS has some negative years, but my question is, does Schuster have the same negative years?
We saw those kinds of things. Yes, sir. We saw that kind of activity when we went with the 457 and the 401A, and we consolidated that program from 3 providers to 1 provider when we went with Mission Square, the old ICMA. And then Schuster became, when they came in, they negotiated with respect to what those fees were, because where we were even at back then with respect to ICMA.
Yeah, but that's fees. I'm talking about return on investment.
But it ties back to then guiding and tying back to and working with them on what our investments are.
Okay. Again, they show us 1 year comparison for a 1 year CalPERS to Schuster. Did somebody look at like a 5 and a 10-year window on those?
We did not go back, sir.
Because although CalPERS has bad years, Schuster probably had bad years. My question would be, are they, because they need to make up a little bit of delta. It's not a lot, like you're saying when you look, but they need to make up a little bit.
Yes, sir.
That they're charging on fees. So over time, that becomes important. Not as important as their overall return, because the overall return is the king here, but did we look at more than just 1 year? Because they gave us 1 year, but I'm just saying 1 year can be very deceptive if you have a mutual fund or something, you're comparing 2 of them. One can have a good year or 2, but when you go back looking 5 years and 10 years, you can say, oh, well, this one's a dog because it falls so far when the market goes down.
When you go back into the last 10 pages of the attachment that was included in your staff report, it tied back to some of that kind of data, but not in the look that you're asking for, Mayor Pro Tem, with respect to year to year, year to year. But when you look at those last 10 pages, you see some of that's in there, but not in that portrayal.
All right. So we don't know. I'm going to say, I would ask you if you have confidence in anybody that the 1 or that the 5 and the 10 year look is probably going to still be much more positive.
I have that confidence from a standpoint of knowing the flexibility that you have with respect to this kind of a firm in managing and what they're doing versus the limited portfolio capability and the more rigid structure that is offered. I'm confident in saying that. Do I have that to present to you tonight? I do not.
I got you. So, all right. I'm just being extra cautious, as I'm sure you are, because, part of it's even like, well, that was a great question. Who brought this up? Well, Schuster brought this up. Hey, you got $15 million in there. I could do better than, they're doing for you, which is, if it's true, that's great. And it sounds like it was true on the other. And so that gives a certain level of confidence. But, I just want to make sure that we aren't just because it doesn't sound like they've been doing it a long time, because probably no one was doing it other than CalPERS. So you don't really have a long history to go back, although these funds that they're investing in, there's a history on those.
Yes.
So they could cobble it together. And so I'm generally supportive of this because I'm not overly confident that we get the best deal from CalPERS, that they make the best investment decisions, and they have all kinds of quasi-political reasons why they make some of their investment decisions. That's no secret. It's out there. So that's not necessarily getting us the best return for the money. And I think you can probably make up that delta. It just kind of stuck in my craw when some of the first argument is, well, they saved us on fees, and now we're going to go with them on this, when it's like, well, it would seem like that's not a good argument to make because the fees are higher here. So again, we're talking about small percentages that can be made up with much better return. But my other issue, and we didn't really address it, I thought you were going to address it, was that one of the pros is that basically you don't have to follow any investment policy. And so,
Okay.
well, isn't that
You
what
don't
it's-
have to follow it's not our investment policy that we have to bring to you every April,
Right,
May.
right. Which has legal restrictions on it.
But it could be a different policy.
All right, so now you're getting there. So where's the new investment policy?
Maybe we follow with the previous staff item, and that is, we will bring back to you a policy in 90 days.
I think that's an excellent idea because I think it needs to be thoughtfully written because part of the deal here is you need a little bit of flexibility, but because it's may not legally be considered public money in that once it goes in, but it is public money before it goes in, then I think it would be prudent for all of us to have an effect. And if you remember in our initial discussions, there wasn't even the city treasurer being involved, and you very, very graciously agreed after we brought it up that that would be a good way, and so that's how that came to be. I think that should be formalized, though. It shouldn't, because finance directors come and go. Frankly, city treasurers, they're elected officials, so we know that anything can happen there. So I think that it's prudent that while we have a good finance director, we have a good city treasurer, that we develop a good investment policy that then at least would have to come back to this group of elected officials to change, and then hopefully would also have our public rest assured that we're taking good care of their money by entrusting it to
and we
the
would
experts.
probably want to include other types of things in that policy as well, because a good example, as you can see from the first slide with respect to 22 to 25 and how we made our funding and made our deposits, we saved up money and did 9.2, and then we did annual deposits. Well, for those of you that tie back to any form of investing, or you do mutual funds or whatever, or you take advantage of our 457 program here at the city, to do dollar cost averaging and to potentially maybe not take what we plan and set aside every month like we do, because sometimes depending upon what is going on in the outside world and what our revenues are versus our expenditures, we sometimes make a decision not to fund OPEB in a given year. But maybe we set up a policy just like we have a fund balance policy, that we do a basic amount every month or every quarter where we deposit monies in to take advantage of the market, because that way you get the highs and the lows and you get the averages. Because what happened in year one, if you notice, we lost a significant amount of money in year one in 2022 because we made a significant deposit of 9.2 million and the market went down. And so it took time to get that back. So in those 3 years, yes, we're at 700,000 plus, but we took about $1 million hit the first year. And we were sweating bullets over that. But here we went with the Messiah. We went with CalPERS and the CERP program, because we went to our first CERP program meeting back in 2013 over in San Bernardino to investigate, but we weren't even in a position to set aside that. So as we accumulated dollars then over the years, we then came back. So that could be, those kinds of things we could also include in the policy, the dollar cost averaging concept and whatever, to set maybe a minimum that we would do. And then if life is good, then at the end of the final quarter, if we're having good years, we could then throw in extra.
It just, sometimes we use that as a spring, as we call the city managers. So
Understand.
the
And,
problem,
and
if
so
you-
in this example,
if you dollar cost average and put it in, then
our
you've lost
spring
your
might be a
business.
little bit smaller in the fourth quarter, and we would just have some steady input.
All right. Yeah, I think that would take some discussion, at least with staff.
Of course.
You know,
of course.
because, well, and you do the budget too, so you know how we use it as a budgeting tool sometimes to mitigate the risk of the unknown in the coming fiscal year, so, as far as income.
So we will target the 90 days. It might, if we miss it, don't come back, just from a standpoint of the time of year that we're in. We're now entering year end and things are getting busy, but we will get that policy to you.
All right. Well, I think we should set something, so.
90 days is
Do you
good.
need 90 days or 120 days?
120 days is better.
Okay.
Because guess what? The audit is done in 90 days because it's done the 26th of September, or the on-site audit for the 2 weeks.
All right, well,
And so
'cause
then that gives us a month.
Because I generally support the concept. I mean, I have, because I'm always fiscally suspicious. You know, I'm always a little suspicious of the company, but I'm not suspicious of you, and I'm not suspicious of our treasurer at all. So
We don't take it personal, ever.
So hopefully you don't. But I say I do support this. Well, I mean, in the long run, that's why I think we need the policy, because unfortunately, I won't be here forever. You won't be here forever, and you're an elected official. You won't be here forever either. So hopefully a long time, but for all of us. But you know, I think if we're going to make a move like this, I think it's good. I think that with proper management, we can make up the delta. I just think we need to point out there is the delta in the cost, and that
I'm confident
but
we'll
I think
more
we
than
need
make
to
up the
have
delta.
a very reasonable but strict, where it needs to be, investment policy for this, so that we don't get somebody that has a wild hair, because you have a lot of flexibility in this, I mean, which is good. But that's why I'm saying that's good. But that can be bad. Somebody can read an article and say, hey, you know, this commodities, I think, you know, commodities, or this gold's going to go crazy. I instruct Schuster to move the $15 million all to gold commodities. Poof, you know, and then, so I mean, not that that would happen, but I'm saying without an investment policy, they wouldn't have violated policy, would they, you know, if they were in that position?
And in that example, the same scenario. Just like with respect to our current investments that we do under our investment policy, it's a Greg and Kevin routine. We don't do things unilaterally or without, or if we add a firm. We talked about that in our investment policy. But no, we will definitely, this will become policy number 20. In our policy and procedures document that we redid this past year from our 2009 document, we have 19 policies. And so this will become number 20.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions from other council members? Good. Then anything from the public, please?
Mayor, we have no attendees.
And so we're looking for,
So I would move to approve staff recommendation with an addition that within 120 days, an investment policy be created and brought back to council for approval as reasonably possible at the next meeting after that.
Second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Gregory and a second by Councilmember Gutierrez. Oh, here we go. Please vote. And motion carries. All ayes.
thank you both so much for your diligence.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
It is floating above the water. Can't float below the water. So number 7 is a discussion of future agenda items. Anybody?
None?
And there are no additional closed discussion items, so guess what? We have adjourned.
Great.
Is somebody home cooking for me? I just want to know.